Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Wrestling World Talks with Dan and Mac.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pro Wrestling World Talks. I am your host, Daniel Burke, and I am joined, of course, by my ever-present and my undying devotion and love for him, my hetero life mate, Mac. Welcome back to the program, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure to be here as always.
By the way, thanks for those sodas you brought over the weekend when you stopped by. That was pretty appreciative. Jesus Christ.
Little lit, huh?
Well, because the thing is that I have gone back to vaping again because they've kind of perfected it now, where especially when you know where it's coming from,
yeah.
And it's coming from an in-house dispensary. It's a lot cleaner, a lot safer. But the problem is that it's extremely potent. So when you're mixing things with edibles and then sodas, at certain points you feel like you're on the stratosphere of certain things. So your brain is just going. So that's kind of where my thought process has been lately. It is a lot easier to do the show now too, because I really don't have to be on camera. Like before, I always had to cover it because, of course, I'm trying to, in case there's ever an issue with monetization, that I've always been kind of concerned about that. So, and never really wanted to push that envelope. So I always made sure to do it off camera. Now, with vaping, I can do it on camera because no one knows what it is. Wink, wink.
Ooh, rare.
And on the old show, when John and I used to host this, there would be plenty of times too with, I would always have a cigar lit or doing an interview, or we were just talking. If I remember the CM Punk episode where it was our solo shows after he had returned, at Survivor Series. That was the beginning. There was no other intro. I didn't say anything. All it was me lighting a cigar and then saying, well, who the hell saw that coming? Because that's, but it's been a week. It's been kind of a bittersweet week. My grandmother, passed away at the age of 93, this past week. Lived a very long life. Yes. Especially on this program, it seems like we've always had to come with it, whether it's people that are in this industry that we have that are not close, but also this is like the third death, I think, in the vicinity of the realm of the Pro Wrestling World universe, or my universe.
Extended Pro Wrestling World family,
especially with, of course, the death of my brother David back in May, and then John's passing over the summer.
Yep.
And now this. To be quite honest, though, I would like to have her run, only because of the fact that she only was in kind of a nursing home facility for probably, I'd say, the last month to 6 weeks of her life. She was able to at least live on her own up until the last month to 6 weeks. Even though she was in assisted living the last couple of years, that's still a hell of a run.
There's still a lot of autonomy there as well when you talk about
there
assisted living. So,
there is. It's not. It's still very independent.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of where I think where most people want to leave it. Like it's like,
yep.
that's kind of where I want to, like that's when you hit that certain age, it's just like, yeah, okay, that's where I want to leave it. The last thing you want to do is end up in, that's the home of, because there's only one stop left after that. So that's the problem there.
I'm actually going to disagree with you for a second. I got a good story related to that. So,
okay.
My grandmother was in a nursing home.
Yes.
On my mother's side, and she kind of developed dementia. It was much later in her life. Granted, I was a lot younger. I still kind of understood, right? I understood like it's not personal, stuff like that. Because like I would get calling to be like my brother's name, basically.
Right.
Sorry for stumbling on my words there, but it's like I don't know how else to say it really. So it's like, But I digress. The stops were anytime she would quote unquote escape and start walking down the street.
Oh God.
Yeah. Grab her purse, get all dressed up, nobody was paying attention. She just walk out and go for a walk. So there are a few stops still.
There are exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, exactly.
God love my grandmother on my mother's side. Up until the last week of her death, and she spent the last couple of years in one of a facility, which it was a very nice facility. But she ended up taking a swing at the owner the last week she was alive, which that pretty much
that was
showed
a long time to take a drink on my part. Holy shit, that's good.
Because that was her to the very end, like just a complete badass. Where, one of the few in my lifetime that it's just like if somebody from that generation of just like literally just took no absolute shit of just like Christ, I survived that. Like, oh God, tremendous human beings. They both were, my grandfather and my grandmother on my mother's side, and my father's side as well. They were both tremendous. My grandfather passed away back in 2015, and they lived on the Cape for well over 30 years. And that was a real kind of joy that they were able to have. And it also was, that was a very interesting childhood, going there on the weekends or staying over, just because of the fact that where their house was placed, it was over in Hyannis. Old Schoolhouse Road actually was where the house was on. And the funny part is that it was a spit, like you could spit and hit the Kennedy compound. That's how close it was.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And it was over by Craigsville Beach, which was probably one of the better, I thought, beaches in Hyannis. I didn't like it. I was always, and I still am, a big wave person when I go to the beach. I want the big waves. So it wasn't preferable for me because it was just like, it wasn't as wavy as I wanted it to be. You gotta
go South Cape for that.
Exactly. So that's where usually the best beaches where we used to go. Growing up in the 80s and the 90s, the Cape was still it was touristy, but it wasn't what it has become in the last 25, 30 years.
It's hard for me to say that because I haven't been since well before COVID. So I don't even know what it's like now.
I don't even know what it's like now. The main street though in Hyannis was also a very nice area for arcades, mini golf. The baseball card shop was absolutely probably one of the best ones I've ever seen still. As far as similar, like just kind of like small independent ones. Obviously, there have been ones I have been in that just literally, like if you go to Cooperstown, New York, especially baseball card shops, you can't even touch some of those. Like some of the places you just go into, of just the amount that they have, you cannot even touch it. And that's just become a completely different market now anyways. But that was always something to kind of look forward to, the summers, and that, especially my grandfather, because he was a very good storyteller. He would take us to like these walks in the woods, and also tell us these old wise tales and stories. And he made it believable to the extent of that he told us all, and this is, my brothers could attest to this as well, that there were windmills, a lot of windmills in the Cape, a lot of them. And so he convinced us, all of my cousins, my brothers, that a cyclops lived in windmills. Every single one of them. We believed that for years. We knew it was bullshit, but at the same time, he convinced us so much. That's what we thought. So we, like, it was just good times, like just little stories like that of just, and two, it's that chapter has now officially closed as well. Of that's the end of the grandparents. It's just, that's a sad reality. That generation is, a lot of people that we know, aunts, uncles, great aunts, great uncles, great, that generation is, and then you start looking at your own parents and you're just thinking like, oh boy, they're entering that age that, like, okay, fucking great.
I don't know if my old man watches or listens to the show, but it's funny we're talking about this a few days after his birthday.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like, old man just turned 78. He's still kicking around, still very active, still holds down a part-time job. Not because he has to, because he wants to.
Did he climb that fucking ladder over the weekend?
No.
Or did you?
No.
Okay, good.
We looked at it and we're like, I think he might hire somebody at this point.
I should have asked. I should have asked you over the weekend, because I remember. Did he did he climb the ladder? Because if he did, because I probably would have, as that drive me, and would have probably went out there and just wrung him by his neck and be like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It's such a shit spot. What I'll have to do, I know you and I are so bad about posting social media, but I might have to post the picture of the hole, or a video of like where the hole is on the side of the house, and just the placement of where this bush and this like railing is, because it's on their back pathway.
Get one siding of like, oh, it's the worst.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, I might have to do that at some point. But yeah, it's definitely, you're right. That generation was just, kind of slowly whittling it down, and now, my father's generation, yours too. The baby boomer generation is still alive and kicking, but they're also getting older as well.
Yeah, it's and then fuck. I've had enough of that like inner thought over these last few months, that it's just it's depressing, for one, and number two, it's because I bought a jacket recently, and it's an old one, but it's an old design. It's from the 80s. I'll have to throw it up on socials. Anyways, you can buy it through Chalkline, but it's WWE logos in front of it. It's like a satin jacket, and then the back of it has a design of, it's Hulk Hogan, it's Piper, it's Andre the Giant, and it's the Iron Sheik. And again, it's an old design from the 80s of a jacket that they did produce, and they just reproduced it. When they first announced it and they came out with it, it was not the price that I was like, I'm not paying that. But now recently they lowered it to the price, and it's like, now I'll pay that. But somebody pointed out to me when I was wearing it, they're just like, 3 out of the 4 of those guys are dead, and I'm just like, oh fuck. Like you just
Oh man, I know.
you're like, like, but then again, it's just again with the wrestling business, it's just that's happened a lot. Where some of your favorites, all of a sudden, it's just, yeah. Again, we've talked a lot about death of this program in recent months. To the death to the death of it, to the exhausting extent.
Ego death.
But I felt like I needed to touch on it at least. To Grandma, thank you for everything. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been born. None of the family would have existed. I'm glad that you're together with Grandpa again. Thank you for everything. Love you, the absolute best. And Saturday we will make sure that you are remembered and loved just as much as you remembered and loved all of us. And we will give you the proper send off. Love you, Grandma. Thank you for everything. So now let's get into the wrestling business side of things. So to start off this week, we were talking about generations. We're talking about people retiring, talking about people starting to...
Hold on. I'm sorry, but
yes,
I think it's very funny that we're going from deaths to AEW.
Well, as some might say, depending on who you listen to, it really is the wrestling news media and pundits and that type of stuff. It really is now becoming the MSNBC and Fox News type of, doom and gloom for one, and then everything is coming out fucking rainbows for another.
Because I'm not booked.
Exactly. Dennis, you're not booked. You're not booked because you're fucking dead. The fact...
Again, we're talking about death of this friend.
I know, right? I know. But WrestleDream was this past Saturday night. From what I saw of it, it was a decent show. It was one that I think that people... It wasn't as banger after banger after banger. There were some things that were questionable. Of course. That's just AEW's MO at certain points.
Shut up, bitches!
The Young Bucks retaining, I think, really bothered people, but I think also people come to expect it.
Yeah.
That they have just kind of put a stranglehold in the tag team division, which at one point was considered one of the best wrestling division, one of the best tag team divisions in wrestling history, has now been whittled down to nothing. And now has just been pretty much Young Bucks, pretty much holding that championship. You look at what they've done with FTR. FTR has just been... They've been stuck on Collision. They really haven't been doing much. They weren't even booked on the show for that matter. But the real question, I think that everybody kind of looked at, and the booking decisions that I was contemplating, because I knew when this show was booked in Tacoma, I said, that's it. I said, this is where it's going to happen for Bryan Danielson, or how we like to call him on this program.
That's Daniel McDanielson.
Exactly. A new clip here, folks. We just keep adding it more and more.
Yeah, like I gotta say it. Like, that's me talking, but that wasn't me actually saying it. That's me pushing a button. I'm just gonna do it again real quick, just for sake of argument here, that's, so everybody gets it.
Daniel
talking over myself.
Daniel McDanielson.
So
Daniel McDanielson. It's another.
What are you wearing?
It's a jersey.
What kind of jersey?
It's a hockey jersey.
Get off his balls. That's my favorite jersey right there.
What did we agree upon?
Honey, I told you I was buying this shirt. You knew I had the shirt.
I didn't think you were gonna wear it.
Hey, he is the fucking captain wearing a fucking captain shirt right
Ugly.
now. It's not ugly. It's glorious. It's glorious, Stephanie.
So ugly.
It's glorious.
Yellow with brown.
It's glorious.
Yeah, it's like mustard.
Yeah,
Mustard
gross. Fuck.
Well, I kind of like it.
I don't.
I think it's good.
I don't.
That's why I'm wearing it on here. And I'm not wearing it with you.
I think you made a poor decision.
I always love
Don't make me tell her something I'm going to regret.
It's so ugly.
It is not ugly. It's glorious.
Here.
Take that off before you come to bed.
I'm going to take it off before I go to bed. Come here.
You cuck.
I love you.
Love you.
Cornbread, damn it, cornbread.
As for Matt.
Yes.
Okay, bye. I'm going to bed.
I mean, what the fuck is that? Like, what is that? I know what you just did.
What?
You just wiped your nose. You just wiped your nose on my wrestling buddy. You just wiped your nose on my wrestling buddy. What the fuck? You wiped my nose on your nose on my wrestling buddy.
Good night.
Exactly.
Just no respect for your items, Dan.
None.
First she disses your shirt, then she wipes her nose on your wrestling buddy. Come on now.
Like, this is... Oh, my God.
They put people in Guantanamo Bay for less.
Well, compared to others, these are minor offenses. You know, it's yeah. But this pay-per-view coming into the Tacoma, Washington area, I'm just like, well, this makes sense. You know, it's and then all of a sudden they're going to put him main event, all in London at Wembley. It's going to be him, and it's going to be Swerve Strickland. And I immediately thought to myself, well, they're going to do a trilogy, right? Because there's a pay-per-view in between. And instead of doing a trilogy, they just said, well, Jack Perry, and yeah, because fucking people are going to want to pay to see that, you know. Like that, that's going to be a pay-per-view match. Jack Perry versus Daniel McDanielson. Like, what? We're going to go with that? Like, okay. Instead of a trilogy,
I don't know. It might be zero.
Exactly, Dave. Instead of, which Dave and Brian also kind of were questioning the finish to this match, but instead of doing a trilogy, and then of course I was reading about Grand Slam that there was consideration that, you know, it was going to be Daniel McDanielson versus Darby Allin at Grand Slam, or they were going to move it where Darby Allin and Daniel McDanielson, they're going to face off at WrestleDream, which would have made sense considering the fact that, again, Darby Allin is another Pacific Northwest guy. He's from that area. So it would have been nice. It also would have been good of either having Darby Allin or Swerve Strickland, who people you kind of want to get over, to make new stars and having them beating someone meaningful in a respectable way in a matchup that made the person get a torch passed to them when someone is leaving, when someone is headed out the door or his future is questionable. So that way, not only are you able to pass the torch, but you're also being able to give someone that is leaving and someone that contributed quite a bit to your program or in pro wrestling as a whole. You want to give that person a proper send-off, considering, too, they're in front of their hometown crowd. Instead of Darby Allin and Swerve Strickland, they decided to go with the old reliable Jon Moxley. And what happened, instead of going with the angle of two guys in the same organization of Moxley has earned this opportunity because Moxley wants to prove himself to be the best and feels like that he needs to be or be the final opponent for Daniel McDanielson in his career.
Oh, that's
To go that
Daniel McDanielson.
Instead of making it an angle where it's two guys facing off to see who the better man is, you go a different route. You go the route of another hostile takeover on AEW for the second time this fucking calendar year with a group that's completely different, a group that has already faced criticism from some pundits because of Moxley and other members looking like there's something out of the movie Romper Stomper with Russell Crowe. Not going to say exactly what the organization represents.
Cornbread, damn it, cornbread.
But that's been thrown around. Instead of those two guys fighting now, it's we're going to have Moxley commit attempted murder on Danielson. And we're going to kick him out of the group. And now it's going to turn into we have to get rid of Danielson to get rid of the weakness of AEW, whatever. It's turned into another hostile takeover. I saw the Wheeler Yuta fucking turning thing almost when it happened. I was just like, of course, Yuta now, he's going to turn on, but at the end of the day, I liked the angle of the match. The psychology of it, I had no problem with. Every time from the entrance on, Moxley cut him off at the pass. Moxley was they're playing the final countdown. The people he's supposed to do his pose. Moxley just comes right over, cuts him off. Every time Danielson tried to do something, Moxley cut him off. Every time there was a hope spot. And that's what it should have been for a story in that match because of all the grueling contests and everything in Danielson's career. Everybody knew the story coming into this. He was toast. His body was gone. This was it. And having him lose, getting choked out, he choked out his wrestling career. It's over. And then you win the title, you hold it up but you powder. And then you're able to have Danielson have a send-off, set him off in his merry way, and give the people, because everybody knew coming into that audience knew that Danielson was done, and this was the last time you're going to see him. Everybody knew. I think everybody came into that knowing it's over. So at that point, the only thing they want to be able to do is say goodbye. And instead of doing all that, you just have the hometown guy get fucking brutalized and get made to look at like a fool because of what happened with Wheeler Yuta turning on him. And then you have Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin get cut off at the pass. They're not able to do anything. The last shot is you see Darby and Orange Cassidy outside the ring after Danielson gets carried out in a stretcher job. It is classless. And the fact of the matter is, and anybody that approves of this, anybody thinks it's a good idea that they went with this is an idiot. Because this is something that could kill a town. You try going back, they ain't coming. They ain't going to come back. Because now they're going to remember this and they're going to think to themselves, what the fuck? Why do I want to spend my money if I'm just going to come home disappointed and depressed? People were there. If you did this to Sting in Greensboro, you'd be crucified. You should be now. Like, I don't understand why there's people that it's just like, oh, this is good heat. It's the wrong kind of heat. Alvarez and Meltzer said the same thing.
It might, I don't know. It might be zero.
I like the story. I like the story in the match. I had no problem with it. It was the post shit I hated. And we all know that if WWE did this to Bryan Danielson in his last match, holy shit. The storm that would have come down on that. And you know what? This isn't, and trust me, WWE has done some terrible shit to people. You know, Kurt Angle, your last match is going to be against Baron Corbin. Trust me, they've done some shit that I've just been like, what the fuck? But when Danielson left in 2016, they gave him an open mic and they gave him the respect that he deserved. Then when he came back, they gave him an open mic and they gave him the respect that he deserved. When he was having his last match with Roman Reigns, they gave him the respect that he deserved. You did not do that. And I don't care if he thought it was okay and he approved it. There's still that part of you that has to sit there and say to yourself, Jesus Christ, why can't you give the guy a proper send-off? Oh, he's going to come back in a year. Are people going to pay in a year to see him come back? And the fact of the matter is that if he has nerve damage, he's gone. He ain't coming back. It's over.
I honestly think it's a pretty safe bet he has nerve damage, honestly.
It is a safe bet. He's done. There's a 95% chance, unless they have some quack doctor that it's able to clear him, which, trust me, this organization, they've fucking proven it. They really got a crack medical staff with this fucking organization. We're going to let Saraya perform. Even though WWE won't clear her, we're going to let her go. Well, clearly Matt Hardy just suffered a concussion after dropping on his head from like 10 feet in the air. Oh, we're going to let him continue. It's fine. How many fucking times have you guys cleared someone or didn't check or, stop a match because of a fucking injury? And now you think to yourselves, oh, okay, this is how we're going to end our show for a guy that's probably never going to wrestle again. And if he does, he's a fucking moron.
Ooh, rare.
Bret Hart didn't want to lose a match in Montreal. They got fucked in Montreal. I still think that was a better finish than what you did with Bryan Danielson.
The thing is, too, it's just like you said it, too. It's just like, I don't have a problem with the match.
I have
But
no
I feel
problem
like-
with it.
Yeah, but I'm with you where I feel like everything after that it was like, what are you doing? Why? Like, what purpose does this serve?
There was
Right?
no purpose for the Wheeler
Exactly.
Uniturn. There was
I
none.
mean,
It should have been done a
everybody
week
knew that was
before.
coming, though.
We
Everybody
knew
knew
it was coming, but it should have fucking happened like the week before, or like
I
it
don't
should have
know.
happened. Like it's just, why are you gonna, or do it like in the midst of the match? Like not in the midst of the match, but do it at some point. Why are you doing it now? Of just, it's like, because it's already over. Like you had him turn and it's already over. Like his career's over. It's done. Like it's not coming back. You don't have to have him turn on him now. Because what is it? That's only kicking a guy. Like that's the thing about Rocky V, right? That's what we hate about Rocky V. It's not the fact that he can't box again. It's the fact that he also lost all his money too. It's like you just can't go for the double gut punch. And that's what this was. People are already coming into this building knowing what the result was going to be. They all knew it's over. His career is done. It's over. But instead of giving us a chance to say goodbye and a chance for us to say thank you and everything and be able to play Final Countdown for the last time, have him walk up the ramp, have him do the yes chant, you do a stretcher job, and it's over.
Yeah.
Again, this is how you kill a town. This is how you kill a town 101. They did this in 97, I remember Ric Flair was talking about it in his book. They did it in 97 when they had Kurt Hennig turn on the Four Horsemen and join the NWO. The problem was it was in Horseman country. And they had him turn, and they had then Flair get hit in the face. They smashed his face in with the steel cage door. It was like a guillotine. And so it killed the town. Especially, too, when the NWO won, because the heel team in War Games is not supposed to win. That's usually the logic, right? And they didn't win, and so they won, and then Flair gets hit in the face with the cage anyways. So it was just like, well, why then?
Yeah, exactly.
You got hit in the face with the cage. So it's just, it bothered me all week. It bothered me enough where I had to come out here and say that, look at, because I don't want to have to come on here and say things about AEW that annoy me, because I want to be able to move on and just be like, okay, they got their new TV deal. Like, let's see good things happening. And then it's just like, and mostly too, because I'm calling people out on their bullshit. Because if WWE did this to Bryan Danielson, no one would fucking let them live it down.
Yep.
Not one soul. They would keep going on and on and on and on. And I have to be able, again, as a pundit, as somebody on here that has to be able to hold companies accountable for things that I think that they're doing wrong. Instead of other people that are going to sit here and tell you, oh, I thought it was great. Alvarez questioned it. Brian Last questioned it. I questioned it. Meltzer questioned it.
It might, I don't know. It might be zero.
And the fact is that when you're in a hometown of someone who has contributed mightily to this wrestling industry.
Yeah.
And it has given
That's
given
the whole
his-
thing. It's not even just AEW, it's the industry as a whole.
and because I'm sure Daniel approved it. I'm sure it was like
Oh,
he
sure
had
it
the
is. Yeah.
I'm sure he had the final say of how your career is going to end. He didn't do this for Sting. Sting went out undefeated. His last match was against the Bucks, and the Bucks did the job for him. That's usually what you don't do. Bret Hart didn't want to do that. Like, hey, Hogan didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Hogan would have still, if Hogan had his way, he would never would have lost the championship in '88. He'd still be champion to this day. He never would have lost the title since '84. Hogan had his way. Let's face
I feel like that's not wrong at all, honestly.
it. He'd still be champion from 1984. Like that is what he would want, in my opinion. And I think that the fact that you consider yourself a wrestling purist, you've been following this industry for the majority of your life. I am someone too that also has been following this industry the majority of my entire life. And the fact is, and I came onto this program last week and I said some things that probably people find questionable, blah, 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 about. I don't think he's as big as a star as I think thinks he is. I still do believe, however, that he is a star. He is someone in this industry. Should he be a dominant world champion? Probably not. Do I feel, though, that he has given his body and his soul to this industry? Absolutely. Do I feel like he deserved a hell of a lot better send-off? Absolutely. I think that it's shameful that he did not get a proper send-off. Instead, it's just building an angle that I don't think is going to go anywhere in 6 months. And it's going to be the same old fucking song and dance. And another hostile takeover that's going to fizzle out, and it's not going to go anywhere. The only thing that would have been acceptable is if, like, Shane McMahon came out. That would have been it.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
You know, they're gonna get Lashley, and I understand too. You gotta give Moxley the strap because you're paying him a ton of money. So it's like, well, it's like the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson. It's like he sucks, but we gotta put him out there because we can't pay anybody else. And I'm not saying that about Moxley at all. I'm just saying that you're going to the old reliable, and that, I feel, is a problem because you should be creating stars, and you didn't do that. You didn't go with Darby Allin beating him, which would have been a great moment because it would have been between two hometown guys. You didn't have Swerve Strickland get his title back in front of a hometown like base. You had three guys from the Pacific Northwest, in the state of Washington, and Tacoma. And they were not, and only one of them was involved in the main event. When you could have put two other guys in a top spot and made them legends and put them on an upper echelon and put that in their cap. And now braggadocious rights if they ever turn heel and sit there and say, I retired Bryan Danielson. Instead, now it's Moxley. I get it. It may have been the decision of Bryan Danielson, but I still feel that, and in the end, Tony was very lucky because apparently he has not been working with a contract since August.
Who, Danielson?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
And you put the title on him without a contract. Oof.
Hmm.
If I was Nick Khan, I would have done literally fucking anything.
I mean,
How much-
Dodgers aren't going to clear him though. So
How
who
much
knows?
do you want?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he would have done it, to be quite honest. I because he's too much of a decent guy, a decent human being. And in this industry, there's been a very lack of decent guys and decent human beings. And to be quite honest with Tony Khan, he is a decent human being and a decent guy. I think he's misled by some people. I think at times he has poor judgment. And I think this time he had very poor judgment because he deserved a proper send-off.
Yeah,
He'd earned the right to have a proper send-off. And
totally agree.
it's just one of those things. You just sit there now and you're like, because he might not be back. He might. Like, there's a slight chance, but at the same time, when you're losing strength in your legs and you're having problems with, using your arms sometimes, it's
Well, especially
Go
when
ahead.
it's related to like neck issue.
go ask Arn.
Yeah.
Go ask Steve. Go ask Edge. Go ask him. Edge got lucky
He did.
because he was able to come back.
Yep.
Steve Austin got lucky because he at least has a quality of life.
Yep.
I mean, he's a cat dad now, but he still has a quality of life.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You're a poncho.
Poncho is so spoiled, though. Let's be real.
They have an air conditioned like barn.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, what?
The what?
And he's just sitting there and he's just like, oh, just here with a couple stuff like on my IPAs. Here with Poncho and Macho. What?
Oh shit.
Oh, by the way, for Steve Austin fans, the other side Jackass shirts have finally been re-released.
It's about fucking time.
So you can get them on eBay. Just type in Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin shirts. But yeah, the other side Jackass shirts have made their way to the market. That is a must buy. I think you can now get every Steve Austin shirt imaginable that they have ever released.
Probably.
That they have the F beer drink beer shirts. The original well, they finally have the Austin 316. The original ones were complicated in the last few years. Probably the last 10 years or so, they were a different design in the back than they were in the front. But they have seemed to correct itself because the originals, if you remember, the skull was smoking.
Yep.
Where the last 10 years or so, it was a skull in the back. It just said Stone Cold, but the skull was not smoking.
Right.
Now, the design matches up again. And the funny thing is that they were using that design anyways for the what shirts. So they could have just, all they needed to do was just, guys, continuity here. Okay. Like, it's just, guys, we could just put 100,000 of the same one design in the back, and then just do 50,000 with the Austin 316s, and then 50,000 with the ones. Got it? All right, good.
Yeah.
Why is it taking this long? I was just I was talking about my jacket earlier, and that's the thing about this industry that's amazing now, but it's also amazing with technology and the fact of that you can literally get these old designs and stuff from when you were kids when you didn't have your own money. That was the key thing. Like for a lot of these Austin 316 shirts and that type of stuff, because when they came out, we didn't have our own money because we didn't have things called credit cards. I still remember having my mom have to send checks out to WWE shop at certain points. You know, you get the catalog in it. It's just like, can you send a check for this and that for that much? Thank you. Because we didn't have checking accounts or credit or debit cards to pay for our own stuff. But now we do. And now the stuff is there that we can probably, which is most of the reason why I am looking at my, it just gets overwhelming. You're just like, what the hell? But it's because you're just like, I am a kid at heart, pretty much when it comes to this stuff. So it's just I hold it in high regard, and you know, with certain things, I just want people to be able to get their respect that they deserve. And Danielson, I felt like deserved it, and I'm sure that there's a good portion of people that are just like, well, it's good heel heat, yeah, okay, but it's not going to go anywhere. So
I don't want to say
why
it's
does
not
it
going to go
matter?
anywhere, but it's like, what was the point? Like, everybody knows it's going to be his last match for a while, or it's a tentative retirement, depending on your view or opinion or whatever. But, like, I didn't think it was necessary. I think that's the biggest issue. You know, they had a great match. I didn't think it needed to do anything else. And yeah, you're right. It puts heat on Moxley and especially Wheeler Yuta. Not like he
Doesn't
needs
need
that
it.
more, but exactly. So I don't know. It felt flat to me. Like I get it. I just don't agree with it. I don't know how else to say it.
There's no real way to kind of say it in the end. I think both of us have kind of, you know, it sucks because in the end, I do want the guy. Like I look at Danielson and I want him to have a good quality of life, which is why I want him to get out of the industry. I just want him to be done because he's one of those guys that literally gave you all or nothing. You know, he was going to give you 155%, even if his body, like, kind of reminded me of Pedro because Pedro was, we used to say, it's like he's got a Ferrari motor in him in the body of a Volvo. And the problem is that's what I felt like with Danielson because he did have a body of he did have like a kind of like a just like his motor and his heart and all that stuff was literally, it was a Ferrari. But the body was just so fragile. And that was the problem was with the indie circuit really killed him because it pushed him so far. And you're wrestling up against talent that you have to go up against. You have to bring your A game. Like the years in Ring of Honor and things of that nature and going to Japan. There's always a difference when I tell guys about Japan veterans and WWE veterans, because Japan guys, you look at like Okada's beat up. Okada's like 35, 36. He's in like the mid to late 30 range. And he's all beat up. You look at Kenny. Kenny's 41 years old. He's all beat up. Always had injuries. Will Ospreay has said that he feels fine, but he's never going to be 100% because of his style.
Right.
And you can't book long term with these guys. That's part of the problem, because you're always either waiting for an injury to happen, or you're waiting for an injury to happen that's it. And it always could happen, because you're dealing with guys with neck injuries, and that's why I don't fault a lot of these guys, especially two that just, they want to push themselves, which was rather surprised this week when I heard that Kevin Owens has verbally agreed to a contract. He hasn't signed anything yet, but he's going to probably be staying with WWE. That was the latest that I heard this week.
Yeah.
There are just some guys that just, they want to be comfortable and they want to be working in a play, and they like being a star. And not say they coast, because I don't think there are guys in this industry in WWE. I don't think that at one time maybe they were coasting. I don't feel like that now, because I feel like that everybody over there is all for one and all for the company. I don't know if I feel like that about AEW.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I don't think it's the same kind of atmosphere that it was 5 years ago. I think 5 years ago it was. I think 4 years ago it was. I think 3 years ago it was. 2 years ago. A year ago. 6 months ago. Now. Like, you're losing Danielson. You're losing a locker room resource now, because you don't have many left. I don't know many people that will want to go up to Moxley and ask for his advice, because Moxley's going to say, dude, I'm not going to give you advice because I don't have any. Moxley trended his own path. And I want people to realize too about Jon Moxley, I don't hate Jon Moxley whatsoever. I don't.
But
I think he's a tad overrated, but I don't think I don't hate him. Like, I don't vilify him. I think and I know a lot of people that do vilify him. There's a lot of things that Jim Cornette says about Moxley that I do agree with. There's a lot of things that people do agree with about Jon Moxley that I agree with, or I agree with, or they agree with. I don't know. There are certain things that I do like about Moxley a lot, though. I do think that he's the heart and soul of AEW at certain points. That speech that Adam Copeland gave after CM Punk's interview with Ariel Helwani, that should have been Moxley giving that speech. And it would have had more weight to it if it was Moxley giving that speech.
Yep.
And it's because of the fact that he was there since day one. And he's also been, I think, at this forefront. And the fact is, too, is that he has been a beacon of change in that company at one time. I think going back to him now, because I think the audience already kind of sees what to expect with him, it's not going to grow anything. Because if Darby won the title, it could get Darby out of that kind of lull that I felt like the Darby has been in at certain points, because of the fact that every time that he goes up against a big name, he usually loses. Which again, at Grand Slam, he lost to Moxley. So now him beating Moxley, let's say if people want to pay, but that's the problem again with giving away these matches on TV. Let's say that Darby gets a championship match and then they have it on pay-per-view. Are people who have seen him lose on free TV going to now want to pay $49 to watch him win the match from Moxley? I say no.
it's just, you know what it is with me with him? It's just, I don't feel he's like a credible champion. He's small. Like, let's be real. Like, you know, if WWE, for example, brought back the Cruiserweight title, put it on him. I'd be okay with that. I just don't see him as a credible world champion. Go ahead.
Here's the difference between Darby, though, and like other guys, because Darby will go that extra mile and make it believable.
True.
A lot of the vignettes and that type of stuff, a lot of the things that he does, because he does filmmaking and all this stuff, he's a very unique cat.
Yeah.
Like, he is a very unique human being. He's also he is one of the bright spots in that company that I actually really respect. And he's always been somebody that always has had my respect because of the fact that, because I know that there's some people that are like, well, isn't he just like a Jeff Hardy ripoff? No, because he's actually got wrestling ability. There are things I've seen him do in the ring. I have been like, that is pretty fucking good.
Sure.
And this is for somebody that I think has, and it's the same thing with Orange Cassidy too. Both guys. And they're both guys that, but Cornette has given Darby Allin some praise over the years. He has not been kind to Orange Cassidy.
No.
And I think the reason why is mostly because the gimmick and forgetting about the gimmick instead of looking at his wrestling ability. Because Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy can both go in the ring in my humble opinion. They make it both believable. So both those guys kind of being baby faces for them, that sets them up in a good direction. The problem is, again, where's it going to go in 6 months? Because again, he's made it clear to his locker room. He's made it clear to everybody else. He's made it clear to the media. He's going to week-to-week booking. He's been on week-to-week booking. And he's going to probably maintain week-to-week booking.
Safe bet, yeah.
And I don't like it. I think it's going to backfire amongst other things that have already happened in this company that he thinks is a great idea, but have at times blown up in his face massively. This is probably going to be another one.
Probably.
I'll be interested to see where this goes in 6 months.
Yeah, it's like Moxley is old faithful for the guy. And, I don't hate that on paper.
Nothing wrong with it.
Right, exactly. And I don't think there's
Nothing
anything
wrong
wrong with it either. But, you mentioned Darby and, there's other guys. You mentioned Swerve. You mentioned, Will Ospreay. There are other guys that you could put the belt on. And, I get it. There's potentially a takeover angle coming. It's pretty obvious that's the route they're going to go at this point, especially after last night, watching some of the clips from it. I don't care. I'm not engaged. And part of it is they need to feature other talent. John Moxley is old faithful, and I'm down for that. But the biggest problem I have with John Moxley is kind of like what you said. He's a little overrated. Put the belt on other guys. Give them the shot. Go ahead.
How about that spot with I'm sorry I keep cutting you off.
No, it's fine.
I keep having a thought.
Oh no, go ahead.
How about that match with that moment with Takeshita and Ospreay where Takeshita thought he had him for like a clothesline or something. Ospreay ducks under, and then when Takeshita literally turns around, he catches him with a fucking cutter off the second rope. And you're just sitting there, you're just like,
I did not know who was going to win that match.
He makes it easy.
He does.
He makes it easy for a booker to be able to just be like, just do your thing. Because he can literally do anything in the wrestling ring.
Yep.
Will Ospreay is that good. As far as a talent is concerned in a wrestling ring, he is one of the few guys like Kenny, like Brett, like Danielson, like Shawn Michaels. Certain guy, even The Undertaker at certain points. Vader, just in control at all times of anything that they're doing. Eddie Guerrero, all these guys that had absolute total control every single time that they're in the ring. And that to me is special.
and to do it at the pace that the three of them, I would say, do it, especially, including Ricochet and those two.
Yeah, you got to give it up to the old Rico Chet. Rico Chet.
Yeah, but again, like the things that the three of them can do at the pace that they can do it is phenomenal on television, and makes for phenomenal matches regardless of whether it's on a pay-per-view or on television. It's just, again, like looking at those 2 to 3 guys, looking at some of the other talent that we could kind of already mentioned, it's hard for me to sit there and be like, yeah, put the belt back on Moxley. It's like there's so many other talent that they could start to develop. And I feel like instead they wait for the established talent, like your John Moxleys, like your MJFs, like your Adam Coles, and guys that have been other, Bulls faithfuls for them. But at the same token, I look at it from this perspective and just be like, okay, well, that's cool and all, but at what point do you kind of just turn around and be like, you know what, I'm going to put the belt on this person and have, Moxley chase them or something, or have MJF come back and chase them. I don't really care about this MJF Cole thing. It's been done. Yeah,
oh,
there wasn't a huge payoff.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's bring that up for a second, because actually, it's just all of a sudden you just brought it up to me. Where in Logic Land, is the fact that the last time that we saw Adam Cole, he was a heel. He was the devil.
Yep.
With the Undisputed Kingdom, who helped screw over a babyface, MJF.
Yes, sir.
Cole, who was not ready for to return, and MJF, who came back. They did their angle at pay-per-view early this year, and we all kind of assumed that was it. It wasn't a great payoff, but at least at the same time, they tied that up with a little bow.
Yeah.
So now MJF returns at the pay-per-view, beating up Daniel Garcia. He's a heel. And he's got the diamond ring. He's about to lay Daniel Garcia out with it. Here comes the boom. Cole comes out. Babyface pop. When Cole left, heel. Now, back, babyface. But again, did nothing to turn babyface. The fans just automatically knew, I guess, to cheer him. But at the same time, when he left, when they were feuding, he was the heel. And now he comes running down the ramp and he's chasing MJF out of the ring, who's running from him, because MJF is now, instead of the baby face, he's the heel.
It was bad.
How? But why?
What do you mean?
Like, I'm not questioning you.
Okay,
I'm questioning. I'm not questioning you. I'm questioning the angle. I'm not questioning you at all, sir.
I'm just making sure.
No. I like that. That to me was another takeaway of just like when did that kind of, because you're supposed to have guys like Will Washington is supposed to be like his continuity guy. As someone that likes to kind of look at continuity, like it's got to be kind of a different, I don't know. The only way that you can pull that off, right, is if Daniel Garcia and MJF, if they do like a mystery partner for TV, and then, you know, MJF, he has his partner where it's some fucking random dude, right? Like Roderick Strong, maybe, or something. Somebody that has history with Cole.
Right.
But so then you bring Cole out to be like Daniel Garcia's mystery partner. That's how you can do that and make it make sense. Old nemesis. Somebody they chased off, right? Instead, we'll just do it in the pay-per-view and make it make no sense. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay. Instead of building up TV. Because that could be a 2-week program. You know, like you have
Could have been a two-way program, but they just
you get Garcia to fucking get beaten the shit out of. Garcia comes out on Wednesday and says, "I'll challenge you next week," blah blah, Dynamite, blah blah blah. Yeah, maybe you pop a rating because you know you got Bobby Lashley kind of hanging out there, so people might think it's Bobby Lashley. You know, it's or some other big name, the big other free agent, some other game changer. Instead, it's Cole coming back. That would have made sense. That would have made sense. That would have been cool. You know, that they would have been able to continue that. And that would have been something I would have been like, hey, yeah, that's good. This made no fucking sense.
Yeah.
This made none.
No, it didn't. That was my whole thing too. It just I was looking at it from this perspective of like, all right, cool, Adam Cole's back. Cool, they can start this, you know, whole storyline over again with him and MJF. And then it comes out, and I'm like, okay. And they just cheer the shit out of him. And
Yeah,
I'm just
it's like,
what are you doing? He left as a heel.
He left as a heel after fucking this guy over after being champion and also becoming like best friends with him. Like they were best friends at one time. Which, you know, I didn't I never wanted to see those guys because that made no sense to me of having those guys like team up and be like a tag team like on paper. But then it turned out to be gold.
Really
like
did.
television
Yeah.
gold. And it shows you the talent that both those guys are, especially Cole too. Like, cause MJF, yeah, you could put him in anything, but Cole's the same boat.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have talked to death about AEW, and I kind of want to talk something about that's kind of fun this evening, concerning the fact that we started out this program with a bummer, and then for the last like hour and a half, we have been going on and on
Not
about
even actually. Like 45 minutes. It feels like an hour.
for the last
plus.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, for the last 45 minutes, I've been going on and on about like how my mind for the last week has just been like going back and forth about this company again. So we kind of wanted to talk about, because we had the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre matchup, which turned out to be one of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches. So we kind of put that bug in the air of just like, hey, let's talk about our favorite Hell in a Cell matches. Ah, yes. One of my favorite DVD sets, that graphic.
Yeah. I was thinking about like getting all the individual, you know, potential top 5 Hell in the Cell matches. And I was looking through some of the graphics and I saw this gem of a DVD box set, 3-disc set, greatest Hell in the Cell matches of all time. And having all of these matches and different links of the chain, I thought was just such a cool imagery. So I was like, you know what? That's the graphic for tonight. That's it right there.
It really was. Actually, me and you, because again, we talked about earlier how you were here on Saturday.
Yep.
We ended up watching the first Hell in a Cell match between Shawn and The Undertaker, where I was just like,
yep.
Yeah, everything. It just, I'm probably going to list it later on, but you know, it's still one of those matches where you're just like, holy shit, they were able to pull that off still.
I mean, listen, I think we could just talk about that one for a sec, because
it made my list.
Yeah, I
like
don't
it
think we have
did.
to go in any
It's just,
particular order here either.
no,
so
we don't. I just,
we can at the end. We can rank like our number ones, if anything. but I feel like that's going to be number one.
It's either going to be one or two, because,
I
you
agree.
know, we still have the other really big one, because, again, when we talked about Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, I said, yeah, it's going to be really hard for them to kind of live up to the legacy of what these guys kind of set, like especially Taker, because the first two, at least single matches between that he had at the Hell in a Cell, because I think, trying to remember, my memory, at least for Monday night, for weekly TVs, it gets kind of fuzzy at times.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember if that cage match, that Hell in a Cell match, that tag match, I think that was Taker and Austin against Kane and Mankind. I'm trying to remember if that was before or after the match, the King of the Ring match between Taker and Mankind.
Yeah, I don't remember that well.
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of piece that together. But the definite first one between Taker and Shawn, I don't know if you can set like a gimmick match like that. If, other than like the Elimination Chamber match, this match definitely, I think, lived up to the hype of that gimmick match. Because I don't think there was really nobody else, I felt like, in that company at that time. Even Brett, and as good as Brett was, I don't think he would be ever able to kind of come up with, I think, a better contest, a better first matchup between two guys. Because Brett, I think, he would use the ring and the kind of atmosphere to his advantage. But I felt like Shawn and The Undertaker were able to just say, okay, we need to come up with a way to be able for us to kind of get out for a little bit, because, you know, that is something that I think Shawn needed to do, was able to get out of the ring, because you are trying to escape from Frankenstein's monster in this matchup. Is the last possible thing you want is to be able to have somebody that pretty much has 100 pounds on you, can't be killed, and wants to tear your head off.
Yeah.
So you have to do literally everything you can to stay away from this guy. And I think that played into brilliant strategy of Shawn. And also the timing of it worked out, because he attacked the cameraman. And then when he hit Taker with the sweet chin music, and then Taker got right back up, Shawn was just like, all right, fuck this. I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way I'm beating him. Fuck this. I'm done. He saw his way of getting out. And then Taker just used him like a battering ram, which, unbelievable visual. Like the blade that job that he did, which ended up being pretty deep, because I remember that scar was still there. Even through Survivor Series.
Yep.
I remember he had that little bit, he didn't have the bandage on, but that scar was there for at least another month, maybe a month and a half. But it was, I think, when they went up to the top, it wasn't, I think, as dramatic as with. The only reason that Mankind was dramatic was because of the two real famous spots. But also, you know, there was other stuff that also happened as well. But this kind of
right.
Shawn falling off the edge, and then the chair shot, and then the crescendo with Kane coming out, ripping the door off, which again started that story. I mean, it was. We watched it again, and I just remember thinking to myself, and because there's a lot of things that we could see a match from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and there might have been a moment or two that we might have forgotten it. But I remember watching that match and just thinking to myself, I remember every single bit of this, bit by bit. I remember the chair shot. I remember the falling off the edge. I remember this spot. I remember that. I remember it was just a lot of it too was also reminders of being able to be like, of why this match is a masterpiece, of why this thing kind of set the bar so high for, I think, anybody else to even have a matchup that can even enter that rap atmosphere of being like an all-time classic.
Listen, I think that for a first time type of match, which this one was between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, especially, it's very hard to beat it, right? You talk about the Mankind match, that was after this. I think Mick Foley went in wanting to do something different, or at the very least to up the ante of what was done between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. As you mentioned, Shawn falling off the side where Mick is thrown. Also being on top and also having the roof of the cage cave in and him getting driven down to the mat was not a planned spot. It just happened. And everything that kind of goes into that match is also hard to beat. So then when you said earlier, like, it's hard to kind of give a number one or number two for those two matches, I think it's very telling, honestly. You had Kane come out for the first one, rip the door off, like you mentioned. That was a very iconic moment because they'd building Kane being alive and potentially coming to get the Undertaker, so it drove a story. Whereas the second one just drove how insane Mick Foley was at the time to do some of the stuff that he was doing. And I love the story, because they've gone back together, Undertaker and Mick Foley, to watch that match and to talk about it. And that is some of the funnest stuff to watch, is not only to watch the match broken down, but watch it broken down by the two guys that were in it. And I love the story that they both kind of echo and tell about how Terry Funk came down to the ring and basically Undertaker kind of muttered under his breath, "Is he alive?"
Yeah.
After he fell through the cage, bringing him out in the stretcher, only for him to kind of fight his way off the stretcher and then use it to, roll back to the ring at high speed. It was great storytelling for both the matches. It's just so hard to look at both of them and really say this one was better than this one. It really is, because both had different stories to tell. Both, Undertaker was in both of them, but against different opponents. So, looking at both of them together, I think is great, but I also think that if I was going to give the edge, ironically enough, not to Edge, if I was going to give the edge, it would be probably to the second one. It would probably be to Mick Foley and Undertaker, just because of the fact that it's still talked about today. Not saying that Undertaker and Shawn Michaels isn't, but it's not talked to this length of the Mick Foley and Undertaker match.
Here's the way I put it. I put the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels match as one of the best kind of wrestling matches possible, where I look at the Undertaker and Mankind as one of the greatest spectacles ever.
I can agree with that.
It's considering also that match could have ended terribly, not because of the fact of the spots, but also because of the fact that Taker was coming into that with like a broken foot.
Yeah, that's true.
That was, which having to climb a cage and having to climb down a cage with a broken foot, it's just like, and there was one time too where he ended up coming down from the top and coming where he kind of like his foot gave way, and then he just kind of gets back to himself, and that was when he asked Terry, he's just like, is he breathing? So that could have been a disaster. That could have been something that did not turn out to be something memorable whatsoever. That could have been a wet fart. That had the potential of just something that no one wanted to remember. And no one wanted to talk about. And yeah, because that matchup is a linear moment for an entire generation of wrestling fans. everybody remembers what they were doing. Everybody remembers where they were. And that was also just another moment in an unbelievable kind of shaping year of our teenage lives and what ended up becoming. Because 1998 is just one of those years of, I don't know if anything's going to get better.
Yeah, it really was though.
Like
It really was.
1990, it was just one of those years of just like, I don't know if there's anything that's going to be better. Cause it's just, and this was another lineal moment of that, of just like, whoa. And a week after this, 8 days after this, Goldberg beat Hogan on Nitro. And so that was how significant and how interesting the entire wrestling industry and landscape was in 1998, because of just the fact of it felt like that every week, every month, there was something monumental that was happening in the industry. And, this was just another moment in 98 where you were just like, Jesus Christ, this year can't get any fucking better. The next three were hard, at least for me. I don't know about for you. I don't know if you want to kind of lead off with another
No,
one
you
that
go
you
ahead.
kind of, I kind of wanted to split it up because I didn't want to make it completely because I could have just done an entire list of The Undertaker. But I am just going to do one more, and that is the match with Triple H at WrestleMania 28, the end of an era Hell in a Cell match.
I knew it was going to be one of yours.
Considering the fact of the stakes, the fact that he was going into this, he was 19-0. Had defeated him the previous year, had defeated Shawn Michaels a couple of years previously as well. Put him in retirement. So it was this giant kind of 4-year story arc, all leading, and technically you can go back to 2007, this giant 5-year kind of story arc, because of the fact that this kind of all started at the Royal Rumble of 2007. The last two guys were Shawn and The Undertaker. The Undertaker won. And then again, a year later, it's Shawn and The Undertaker leading off at the Royal Rumble. And then, of course, you have WrestleMania 25, WrestleMania 26, WrestleMania 27, and then WrestleMania 28. And now, not only is it supposedly the end of an era, the last time that all three of these men are going to get together, unless it's in Saudi Arabia. It's The Undertaker, it's Triple H, and with Shawn Michaels as the guest referee. This was already a part of a stacked WrestleMania card. You had the main event between The Rock and John Cena, and then you had Chris Jericho versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship. So you already had other matches on this card that had really high stakes to it. And there's also, again, because of the fact that both men were at an advanced age, you're wondering if both men are going to be able to kind of raise the bar, so to speak, and make something memorable. It was brutal at times, just seeing Taker just get hit with a chair over and over and over again. and Sean thinking about stopping it, and Triple H telling him just like, if you don't stop it, I will. And he'll just said, I'm going to end it. And the moment that Sean hits the sweet chin music on Taker and the pedigree is hit literally right afterwards, which is also a finish in WWE 2K. Now, you wonder why. And
Boo ran.
that was the one moment, the one instant in my lifetime before 2014 that I thought that it was over. No one was humanly ever going to kick out of this. And then he somehow kicked at the absolute last possible human second. Like just the 1 millisecond that he needed, he was able to get it. And was able to kick out of 2 unbelievable finishers like within seconds of each other. It was an absolute masterclass in fucking drama for the industry, because I was ready to jump out of my seat, and it's just like, like, because it's one of those moments where they got you and you're like, fuck, yeah, this is the good stuff. The ending, Triple H telling him to suck it, Taker finishes him off, Tombstone. Then, of course, all 3 guys, they kind of look over the crowd together. And that was an awesome moment where I think for a lot of us, including myself, especially what happened 2 years later, that was the snapshot where it kind of ended it for us. That was it. It really was kind of like the signal of an end of an era, because it wasn't the same after that. That was the last gasp of kind of everything, because Taker at that point decided, which he had earned the right to kind of be like Santa Claus. Yeah, but it's still one of those matches where you just look back on it and you just like, this hit everything it was supposed to. It hit all the good stuff. Like all the stuff that you expected, but at the same time, you're not going to complain about it because it's predictable, but it's a good kind of predictable. And just a masterclass. How about yourself, sir?
No, I think that this one was one of the matches that, looking at the context of the match, looking at the storytelling of the match, having, the referee be one of the guys that was an opponent in a Hell in a Cell with one of the other guys was kind of a stroke of genius on Vince's part a little bit, which I hate to say sometimes, but it was. And obviously he's, real life and kayfabe friends with both of them, number one, but also more so Triple H. I think that, kind of like you mentioned, though, if you take all of that away and just focus on the fact that it's Hell in the Cell at WrestleMania when the streak is very much still alive at that point, is a huge, huge linchpin to the match as well. And having it be at that stage at WrestleMania in a Hell in the Cell against 2 guys that are for all intents and purposes, or even 3 guys really, all intents and purposes, are pillars in your company, even at that point, still, was just a huge match feel, obviously, given what I just said. But it was just so impactful looking at it from that perspective for me that I would also put this on my list, because at the end of the day, like you said, when he hits Sweet Chin music and then Triple H hits the pedigree, it's like, oh, fuck, this is over. And it had that vibe that it was going to be over even walking in, because it's like, shit, it's Hell in a Cell, it's at WrestleMania.
Deck.
And it was stat cards, like you said, and it's like, shit, this is gonna end tonight, and you don't want to see that, but it's unfortunate, like that train wreck, you can't look away. But then, he pulls it out, and the streak lives. He could have retired that night, and I wouldn't have been unhappy at all.
No,
You know?
you sometimes feel like that maybe should have been the end.
That's why I'm saying it. Yeah.
The streak's intact. He leaves a note of where it's just like, all right, that's it. That's where it should have ended.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I feel like for me, that's where it ended. Like it was just like, okay, like because it was like after he hit 20, it was kind of just like, all right, it's cemented. Like no matter what happens now, that's it. Like nobody really can take anything else from it. Because even against, because even against CM Punk, I was just like, I was kind of,
yeah,
I was kind of like leaning a little bit towards Punk being the one. When he fought Brock, I was just like, there's no way. And then when Brock did it, I was just like, oh fuck, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Shit.
That's what I was gonna say. Like the whole CM Punk thing, I would have been a little unhappy, but I would have been able to accept it.
Yeah.
Even Edge at the time, when they were discussing him potentially going over, I was like, I don't think he needs it, but I would have been able to justify it.
I would have been okay with it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like with Brock, I just couldn't. It's like he doesn't need it. He does not need it. So I was a little bit unhappy. Yeah, it's a notch for Brock, and that's great for him and his career and everything. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't think it was necessary.
Yeah, but also too, there's one thing I've always thought about. Like if they had Cena end the streak, there would have been a riot.
Agreed.
There would have been a riot. With Brock, no one's gonna riot.
Well, Brock would just beat the shit up anyways.
Exactly. So it's like, well, I'm not gonna do nothing because what am I gonna like? Oh, he just ended the streak. What the fuck are you gonna do about it? Nothing. Like I'm not gonna do anything. Like,
yeah.
it's like you're not gonna do anything because that's kind of I think part of it because it's like he lost to a UFC heavyweight champion. Like it's not bad.
No.
It's not like
and that's why I don't disagree with it in the context of like, okay, I wasn't happy about it. Still kind of not. Just being real for a second.
it's not like he lost to like Big Show and A-Train,
Moving on. Moving on. I hated that so much. I agree that he should have won, but I just hated the way they did it. But
it was so stupid.
it was.
So
what else you got?
There were other ones, like there was some honorable mentions, like Vengeance 05 I always liked with Triple H and Batista. I thought that was really good. The Brock Undertaker ones were also very good. The one in 2002 and the one in 2015.
Yep.
They were both very, very good. I did want to kind of because sometimes you have to get creative with stuff, right? And because I was thinking about this recently, and I was thinking about like the PG era with WWE and like the times that it was really dark. And I got to think about like Randy Orton with what he was able to do and like as a heel and like the late 2010s, early 2020s, like with the Drew McIntyre feud, which was really, really good in the pandemic era. I think about the stuff they did with Jeff Hardy, including the Hell in a Cell match, which, good Lord, which I kind of wanted to list. is one of my favorites, just because of the fact that, number one, it's insane of some of the spots that were done. The one that really I think kind of triggers everybody is, and because it's very kind of, it's something out of a serial killer movie. It's something out of a torture movie, is Randy Orton taking a screwdriver to a piercing and Jeff Hardy's ear and twisting it around with a screwdriver. It is, if you're nauseated to that type of stuff, it is one of those things that is going to make your skin crawl. It is. It's one of those spots, but it's, again, in a PG era where it's like there's no blood, right? But you're able to just still find ways to make people feel uncomfortable, and I hate to give Jeff Hardy credit at certain points, because there are a lot of times with Jeff Hardy where it's just like, dude, you're really good at this. You need to realize that you're good at this, but you're also an asshole. You're just...
I don't even say that. I just think he makes bad choices.
He just makes bad decisions.
Yeah. I think that,
and
saying it that way is more fair than calling him an asshole.
Yeah, that's the way I got to look at it. And maybe it was unfair to call him an asshole, but it's because sometimes I get frustrated with him, and because I want him to be able to succeed. Because of stuff like this, because of matches like this, where it's like you go into this with low expectations and then you get wowed in the end because he does something really insane, which I think was, at one point he was going to do like a swanton off like the top of the cell, because he was like using his monkey bars. And then of course he just falls and Randy moves out of the way and just pins him. Because it's a spectacular finish, and it's one of a crash and burn sense with Jeff, which is a great thing about WWE, and also how smart that Randy Orton is, because it's not like with AEW where if he went through the tables, they would have done like another 3 spots afterwards, where he falls through the table and then Orton just rolls him up into a pin like, hey, gotta take it because he's already done, right? Like, because it makes sense. But it was a damn fine contest, I think, that kind of tested the stomach of some people, and kind of it made people uneasy because of the finish, and also because of the work of just the twist. It's just, yeah. It's tough to describe without making people feel uncomfortable.
I feel like that's Hell in a Cell in a nutshell right there.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, I have to go a little bit different on this one. I don't think that's a bad match, obviously, but I really have to give it to, and I know it's relatively new and it's relatively fresh, but I have to. The storytelling was great, and it's Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. I think what they were able to do in this match, the storytelling to this match, is just straight up phenomenal. And I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's Triple H's really his first Hell in the Cell match, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Because looking back at Cody and Seth Rollins 2 years ago, that was still under Vince McMahon. I believe that Finn Balor and Edge were still under Vince McMahon. So this one being Triple H's first real Hell in a Cell, I think it was nailed. And I know there were some unplanned spots, like McIntyre getting split open by the toolbox was unplanned, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they were really pushing him to bring it home after that, but he was like, no, if I start feeling woozy, I will immediately take it home now. And he's able to maintain and continue on with what I felt was a great match, a great Hell in a Cell. The back on the steps, trying to hit a Claymore on CM Punk was looking super painful. I thought bringing out the beads was a great touch because when you see those velvet black sacks, you usually think they're bringing out the thumbtacks.
Thumbtacks.
Yep. Instead, and that's what I was thinking when I saw it too. I was just like, man, I don't think we need thumbtacks. But then he just
No.
dumps the beads in it right out on CM Punk's head, and I was like, holy shit! It was just a great all around match. You know, I know people oftentimes, especially depending on how gratuitous it is, get a little squeamish with the blood. I thought the blood enhanced this match, truthfully, with how much of a feud these two had built up over the last 6+ months, honestly. I just felt that it was really, really well done. And, you know, I've looked at other ones in the past. Like you said, we watched a couple together last weekend. I rewatched Cody and Seth, and I feel like that one's really only high on people's radar because of Cody's pack. I thought overall it was kind of a pedestrian Hell in a Cell, honestly.
I agree.
But I didn't hate the match itself. Just for a Hell in a Cell, I wouldn't put it very high. Edge and Balor wasn't bad. I didn't have to rewatch that. I remember most of it.
Not great, but
it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Exactly. But this one, and like I said, being Triple H's first Hell in a Cell, I don't. And we talked about this as well, so I should mention this as well. We obviously talked about some of the other ones in the past as well before we even started recording the show. So, I have to go through all of those and look at it from the perspective of like, which one was better, which one had great storytelling, which one, oversold on maybe some of the antics or the stunts or whatever you want to call them. And this one, they didn't have to go on the outside. They didn't have to climb up the cage. They didn't have to do any of that. And it was just so well done. They didn't care about any of that. It was such a great match all around that I was just like, holy shit. Like, I remember we talked before the PLE and we were like, really? That's going on first?
Yeah.
Because it's a 50-50 shot when you go first sometimes. Either you
Right.
have a great match or it's going to be overshadowed by another match on the card. Whether it's, the World Heavyweight title or the WWE Undisputed title going first, because that has happened for both titles. It's like, they might get overshadowed. I honestly think nothing overshadowed this match. Not even the return of The Rock at the end of the show.
No, I don't think so.
I think this match was the show.
It was.
So
It
for
was.
me,
It
that's one of my top ones. I know you put Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy in there. I don't think it's a bad choice, but for me, I need to make sure we mention that match because it was so well done.
This match is my fifth.
Oh well, there you go.
It's like it was. I was gonna. It's like I was trying to go chronologically, a little bit, but I look at this and I'm just thinking it is. The thing about it is where it's just like, oh, of course it was accidental. Look, at WrestleMania 8, right? There was a no blading policy in WWE at WrestleMania 8 because there was enough stuff going on at that point that Vince was just like, okay, we're not going to bleed. So Ric Flair against Randy Savage was pretty goddamn obvious with Rick. He was fined. Bret Hart and Roddy Piper also had blood. Because Flair got fined, so did Savage. Piper and Bret did not get fined because they passed it on as a hard way because Bret was so good as a blader that where he did it, they thought it was a hard way. And that is a trick of the trade that some of the best professionals kind of know how to do. Would I expect that somebody like CM Punk would know how to do that? Yeah. Is there somebody like Drew McIntyre? That Drew McIntyre has long hair. Is there somebody like Drew McIntyre also that could probably do something like that? Yeah. Am I saying that they did that and passed it on as a hard way? No. Would I be surprised if they did pass it off as a hard way? And they really just split it up and they played it themselves? No. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. This match is everything it needed to be. It didn't need to be a bloodbath. It really wasn't a bloodbath. There was blood, but I've seen bloodier matches.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was refreshing to see kind of a blood match though, like in WWE, because it's like you hadn't seen it for so long, but at the same time, it was refreshing. It was a sense of realism. It was a blood feud. This has been a blood feud. And it needed a blood finish. And it got a blood finish.
At Bad Blood, no less.
Exactly. Like it made perfect sense why this pay-per-view. You know, you look at the main event, you look at this match of the show, and it was all centered around Bad Blood. All of it was Bad Blood. And the opener to this was truly something special. And it was something exactly that it needed to be. It didn't need to be a let's climb to the top, let's do this at the top.
Yep.
You know, we'll go to the side and we'll both fall down to the tables at the same time. You know, we'll have a monitor explode on you. You put like a bunch of chairs on me and I'll hit you with this ridiculous sledgehammer. It wasn't any of that. It didn't need any of that. It didn't need any of those gimmicks. It stayed inside the cell. It used a toolbox. It used what the surroundings, its surroundings as the weapon, which again reminded me a lot of Tully and Magnum TA from Starrcade of '85. It gave me those vibes. And that, honestly, I think was probably a blueprint from how this contest was going to go. It was exactly what it needed to be. It was, I can't say that enough because I've said that enough, but it's exactly what it needed to be.
Yeah.
It was the perfect finish to this feud, the perfect way, I think, it is a blueprint for people in the modern era to what to look at and say, this is how you build a matchup with enough drama and enough storytelling that you don't need a lot of the over the top moves. Even though the spots look brutal, that Claymore miss, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like but it was one of my favorite matches. If it's not match of the year for me, I'll be surprised. Like, I feel like it has surpassed even what Ospreay and like Danielson did at the beginning of the year. Like, to me, like this was the match of the year for me.
Well, I mean, keeping it with WWE for a second, I think it beats Cody and AJ. I think it beats Cody and Roman at Mania. And I just, those, you know, were very highly ranked by Meltzer and and WWE, I guess I should say. So, I mean, the fact that he also called this a 5-star match, I was really shocked because we actually talked about it last week that we did not think that was going to happen.
Well, because there is there has been a history of bias between the Observer and Punk. That was proven during the AEW scandal. That was proven during a lot of other situations that have happened over the years. There was just something between Brian and Dave and Punk that rubbed Punk the wrong way, or rub Dave and Brian the wrong way, and they've just had this contentious relationship. And I thought to myself, he'll give him a 4.5, but that's it. Like but I was surprised when he gave it 5 stars. I was just like, wow.
That's what I'm saying.
Because
surprised.
Because it just he at least, even though maybe now his 5 is his new 4, because with 6 or 7 stars is the kind of,
jeez, who knows?
Maybe that is it with him now, because 5 is actually the new 4. Like it's really actually like 5 is it's actually my 3 from 20 years ago. So if you were a 3 20 years ago, you'd be a 5 now. So that's not bad.
It might, I don't know. It might be 0.
Okay, can I do a? Is that a good Meltzer? I don't know if it's a good Meltzer.
Well, hold on. Do it again. Do a line, a sentence.
With 5, you got 5. 5 stars now is like 3 stars 20 years ago.
You need to stand more because
it might be. I don't know. It might be 0. It might be 0 stars.
I don't know. It might be 0.
You're close, man. You're close. I'll give you that. I mean, listen. I don't know what that calling out was, but I don't know. It might be 0.
It might be 0. I don't know. It's just if I wanted to sound like Alvarez, I'd have to cut my dick off. But
I got no words for that. I don't even know how to respond to that. I'll respond with this, I guess. Oh, that's Daniel McDanielson. Probably would cut his dick off of him anyways. Oh man. Yeah, so that was your 5. The 5th one that I had, honestly, ironically enough, actually just had it up on my phone. Now I already forget it. I believe it was the year 2000, and it was the Fatal 4-Way for the championship. So it was Kurt Angle defeating The Undertaker, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Rikishi, Fatal 5-Way, and The Rock to retain the WWF Championship.
Oh, it's a 6-way.
I can't count. 1, 2,
yeah, it was
3,
a 6-way.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
The Armageddon 6-way. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think why, because it was such chaos having 6 of them in the ring at the same time.
It drove me nuts.
I ended up enjoying it. I know it's probably not the best one on a lot of people's list, but I enjoyed it.
There was somebody else that we used to do a show with that absolutely adores this match. And he
cornbread, damn it, cornbread.
I actually had to convert a VHS tape for him to DVD format because he loved this match so much at one point. You're welcome, pal. It's
shut up, bitches.
This match to me, and I understand why people like it because of the star power and the magnitude of it. There were 2 things that drove me crazy. The first thing was it's not elimination. The one fall concept.
With that many people in Hell in a Cell.
I hate it so much. But at the same time, it's an excusable loss for someone because they had to be it's a survival mode match against 5 other guys. It's amazing to me also that Rikishi takes that fall which is insane, by the way. I don't even care what the hell they had, kind of. Like, we're going to drop you into the bed of this truck and it's just going to be a bunch of hay. Really? Really?
Oh, homeboy Rikishi is afraid of heights, too.
Oh, Christ. And then, so Taker, and Taker didn't even have to lift him up. He just like pushed him. But that was the last you saw of Taker. Taker for the rest of the night was on the top of the cage, just like dying. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you up here?
I need somebody to come get me.
No, you don't. Like, you can climb down. You climb down a little bit in the back of the truck, and then you jump off the back of the truck. And because I remember that matchup and the build up to it. They actually had Taker walk, and one of my favorite Taker promos ever when he was in the American Badass at one was him walking around like the Cell and talking about like all the moments of him and his career there. And I remember going into that match and just like, I wonder if they're going to give him the strap now because of the way they're building this up. Because again, I've said it before, and it was hard being an Undertaker fan as a kid because Taker didn't need a belt. He didn't need it. Like, as an adult, I realized that he never needed a belt. But the problem is when he's your favorite wrestler as a kid, it's like, give him the fucking belt already.
Yep.
Like, that's how I felt all the time. It was just like, just give him the fucking belt. In the video game, that was how I was. I was just like, I'm just giving him the belt. He's just going to be he's going to hold the belt for 10 years. Who cares? And that was the hard part. Because you accepted later on in life, it's just like when you finally realized about Santa Claus and some other things that you needed to realize that the Undertaker didn't need a championship. He didn't need to be the WWE championship, but at the same time, it's like you wanted him to.
That's why we had talked about this separately off the show, but that's why I loved in later years he defended the WWE championship at WrestleMania.
Yes.
I thought it was good to add that in there because it's like, okay, give him a shot, give him the title, let him run with it, give him a Mania moment with the title. And I thought that was hugely important for, his career, maybe not so much for the character, but, having that finally was like, yes, justice. Like,
yes,
it was that moment for us. But then it's just like, those moments always felt short-lived, but you're right. It's like, I always wanted him to have more shots at the title or more reigns with it. But, like you said, he didn't need it. And I can appreciate that more now than I could at like 17. It's just the way it went.
Fucking 14 years old, and you got to stand up with the Undertaker with the championship on his shoulder.
Yep. And
you're pissed off one night because the fucking guy in red comes out, rips the goddamn door off, and now he's not facing fucking Bret Hart for the champion. It's like, it's just little shit that you realize now. Oh, I know why. But
in retrospect, Dan, I don't hate that in that moment.
No, I don't hate it now.
I hated it 6 months later when they trashed Kane, basically.
Exactly. I hated it. Yeah, exactly. Shut up. You got nothing. Shut up. Just shut up. We're not doing this. We're not doing this now. Go back to your hole. Go back there. Now. Just stand there. Shut up.
I mean, what the fuck is
that? We're not doing this.
Like, what is
Shut
that?
up. God. She made fun of this jersey so much tonight. Oh my God. It's hard though.
I liked it. I thought it was funny because I was going to say something about it, probably at this point in the show. And then, of course, she comes in and just.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say I love that shirt.
Of course.
I'm surprised you're fucking wearing it, but it doesn't make me love it any less.
Oh, come on. I told you already that the reason I'm wearing it is because it's literally the reason why I love the Bruins and I hate the Bruins at the same time. Because they traded my guy and sent him to fucking Colorado because for what?
For a fucking Stanley Cup win.
Yeah, well, he won a championship. Yeah, which he deserved.
He absolutely
But at the same time, you sit there and you look at it and you just say, why isn't that with us? That was the problem. They
didn't want to spend more money at the time.
No. They had Joe Thornton. They had Cam Neely. all these guys that but never
That
they
still
could
couldn't fucking
never
win. Yeah.
could never close the deal. Like it just, oh God.
They always
just-
hung their hopes on like one player, whether it be Neely, whether it be Thornton, and
Chara.
I don't think they pinned their hopes on him because Chara did have a pretty decent run with them, I would say.
Yes.
You know, but over the years, especially the years that they were in the playoffs a lot and won the cup, you know, they had other guys. They had those position players that they really needed, like your Bergerons, like your Martians, like, you know, I almost said Coyle, but Coyle was, you know, later. Like Charlie McAvoy. You know, am I mad that they traded guys like Ray Bork? Am I mad that they traded guys like Jerome McGinley? And I cannot remember
Joe
the kid's
Thornton.
name. Joe Thornton was another one, yeah.
Tyler Sagan.
Thank you. Yep. Tyler Sagan. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, I get it. You want to win. You want to win now. Tyler Sagan really didn't factor that much in that year they won. I'm fine with that. But, you know, like, that doesn't mean you can't stop worrying about, like, the next X amount of years. You keep your core guys. You don't just get rid of them. And at the time, those guys were core guys when they traded them. You know, Aginla came in for 1 year. They made it. What, did they make it to the cup that year? I forget.
I think so.
And then they lost. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. He'll be back next year. No, they let him go.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? He is one of the top 10 players in the league right now. As well as one of your other guys' top 10, I would say.
Even though he's old, he's still good.
Yeah. And it was like Jaromir Jagr. Jaromir Jagr was still good. Zdeno Chara, still good. You know, it's just, it always baffles me with them. But I digress.
Are you
We're not talking about hockey?
No, I do have a question.
Well.
I do have one.
Okay.
Are you rooting for Ovechkin to pass Gretzky in the all-time goal scoring list?
Yes.
Okay.
You could probably figure out why.
Because you hate Gretzky?
No, I don't hate Gretzky at all.
You love Ovechkin?
I wouldn't say I love him. I think he's a phenomenal player, though.
But why?
Who did Gretzky play for?
The Oilers? The Kings? The Rangers? The Blues?
All teams that I do not give a shit about. Didn't he play for the Penguins at one point? I forget.
I don't
Thought he
think
did.
so. I think he might have. I don't, for like a half a second. I keep reminding myself that he played for the Blues for like a half a minute to play with Brett Hull. In the 90s. And then he went to the Rangers to be with Messi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the Rangers.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Rangers. Yeah. Played for the Indianapolis. I just pulled it up on Wikipedia on my phone. He played for the Indianapolis Racers, Edmonton Oilers, LA Kings, St. Louis Blues, and then he ended, looks like, with the Rangers. And listen, like, not to take anything away from his career by any stretch of the imagination, because he also had a very phenomenal career, obviously. But I just fucking don't like him. I hated the Rangers. I didn't really care as much about the Kings, the Blues. It was a 1 year thing for that one. The Oilers, dude, like, yeah, I completely forgot about the Edmonton Oilers because whatever. And he had some other teams that he played with in WHA, like I said, the Racers. There was a couple other teams in OMJHL that he played for Met GHJHL, excuse me. Which are like, you know, the small time Canadian leagues, I believe. But yeah, man, phenomenal career. Just straight up phenomenal. But I hate the Rangers. I hate the Rangers. It's funny because living on Long Island, there are like, you know, there's multiple teams. You know, there's the Jets and the Giants. There's the Nets and what is the other team now? The Knicks. I'm sorry, I don't know.
The Knicks and the Nets. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking the Devils for a second.
God,
That's
they must be street fighting these weeks because of the fact that the Mets and the Yankees are in the.
Well, that's the next one I was going to say. Then the Mets and the Yankees, and then of course you have the Rangers and the Islanders. And living on Long Island, even though Long Island is the primary team for a lot of people, Long Island Islanders, it's like I don't care. First of all, I still want to watch the Bruins. I'll catch an Islander game if it's on. I still can't stand the fucking Rangers. I still can't. And part of that might have been the previous boss that I had before the boss I currently have, who was a huge Ranger fan. This guy lived and died by the Rangers. And anytime they would play the Bruins, regular season game or playoffs, he'd come up to my desk and be like, "Oh, how about those Bruins?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they kicked the Rangers' ass last." So, for me, yeah, I do want Ovechkin to break the record finally. It's kind of, for me, it became like the points a couple of years ago with the Bruins beating the previous record for the amount of points in a season. Some of these records deserve to be broken.
Yes.
Right? And Gretzky, like I said, phenomenal player, nothing against him really, just hate the teams that he played for, obviously. But that doesn't take away from anything that he was able to achieve on the ice. It'll be the same for Ovechkin. Even if Ovechkin does not beat the record, he still can't take anything away from the guy. So, good luck to Alex Ovechkin, obviously. Sorry, not sorry, Wayne Gretzky, but we'll see how the season goes.
I guess everybody kind of looks at Ovechkin and just says, "Well, at least it's him and not fucking Sidney Crosby." Like,
don't do that.
I'm
Don't get me started on that guy. So being from Boston, obviously, Boston has its sports rivalries. For those that didn't know, the Boston Bruins' really biggest rivalry is the Montreal Canadiens. But man, do I hate the fucking Penguins too. I hate the Penguins more than I hate the Rangers.
It's like if it's not any of the Canadian teams, it's definitely fucking. Well, it's the Panthers now. The Panthers become a thorn in our sides as well. It's become the Florida Panthers.
I agree. So listen, I agree. I can tolerate them though. I cannot tolerate the fucking Pittsburgh Penguins. I can't do it.
Sid the Kid. It's like, okay, cool. All right.
See, every time people say that about the guy, the Sid the Kid thing, all I think of is fucking Sid from Toy Story. Like, that fucking, skinhead kind of dude, just with magnifying glasses burning shit on the sidewalk or whatever, or in his room even. And it's like, oh, fucking toys, I'm gonna blow them up and shit. I don't give a fuck. I just cannot stand Sidney Crosby.
Don't get me wrong.
I hated Jerome McGinley when he was on the frickin' Pittsburgh Penguins as well. And then he came here, and I absolutely loved the guy because I knew he was a great player.
Don't get me wrong. I like the 90s Penguins because fucking Lemieux and Yager both kicked ass.
I still hated them, but I was able to tolerate them, kind of like Florida now, like you mentioned. Right?
Plus, you played NHL 94 with those guys. It was just like, well, this game's over.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. There's nothing else to say there. I know we're aging ourselves here a little bit, but I remember playing Tech Mobile with my older brother. My older brother is about 10 years older than me. I'm in my 40s. That will tell you what you need to know. So we got a Sega for Christmas one year. It was mostly mine, but really did kind of belong to the family at that point. And we got Tech Mobile. And I don't know if anybody remembers Tech Mobile, but basically, if you were able to figure out the best defense to what the offense had selected, it would basically result in an automatic sack, right? And I remember playing this game with my older brother, and I went 3 and out because literally he just happened to pick the exact right defensive call and get an automatic sack. That to me was always one of those games, kind of like we're talking about with NHL, even though, we're talking like years before, really. But it's funny because NBA Jam's another one. Like if you didn't have one of two tandems, and I'm not even gonna say who they are, we can figure that out.
Fuck.
If you did not have one of two tandems, you were gonna get pretty much lit up on NBA Jam. You just
I was able to get a code to get Bird in it. So at one point
I
able to
remember
get,
that, yeah.
Yeah, so I was able to get Bird in the game. Then I was able to also make sure that I was able to get 3-pointers always working. So it was just like Bird to the corner, bang! Bird to the corner, bang! Some things in NBA 2K haven't fucking changed either. Bird to the corner, bang!
Yeah.
Bird to the corner, bang!
Bam. Yep.
It's literally become that Family Guy. Corner three! Corner three!
Oh man.
Oh god, the games now are so much more fun than when they were when we were kids, because the games back then.
Listen, you say that, but I think NBA Jam still stands up.
Well, of course it
think
does.
It's just such a great game. I know they tried to remake it a few years ago. I know they have what was the other one they used to have? NFL Blitz was another one they used to have.
Oh Jesus Christ!
That was kind of fun though. I will say
it was
that.
fun. It was just hard.
I wouldn't say it was hard, but there were times where it was annoying. I think is the best way to say it. But
It's like, oh god, who's gonna get last ups in this game? Shit! Like,
but it's literally the same as what I'm saying with like the two different tandems in NBA Jam. Whoever you had definitely made or broke that game,
right?
and that's so huge, it's so annoying at the same time. But it is the truth. It's like, there are certain players on some of these games that you literally could own with. We talked about this before with Tecmo Bowl, though. There was one player, I forget who it was.
Bo Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Bo Jackson. Yeah, if you had Bo Jackson and you called the right plays and you had Bo Jackson, oh man, it might be over for you.
Like literally, there was a time I decided to pop that up on an emulator one day. And I ran the fucking clock out, and I was able to just score every quarter. So it would just be at the end of it. And Bo Jackson for another 75 yards and touchdown Oakland. Actually, no, touchdown Los Angeles. And LA wins the game. Time of possession, 4 minutes.
Yeah, I just remember some of those plays, man. Especially at Tecmo Bowl, obviously, but even some of the later games, depending on how good you were and depending on what level of difficulty you might be playing at, or the person you're playing against, and like you could just run roughshod on some of those teams. And I remember it because at the time we would potentially pick the Patriots. Back then, they might have not been the greatest, but they had Ben Coates, they had Drew Bledsoe, they had can't remember the running back's name at this point, unfortunately. And I know you.
Chris Martin.
Thank you. Yep, I knew you had it. And I knew as soon as you said it, I would remember it. But yeah, Chris Martin was another one who was not a bad back, and
Hall of
Coates,
Famer.
yeah, exactly. And Coates was phenomenal, and Bledsoe could gun it. And I just remember, finally getting like the first few Maddens in the late 90s. If you put a good O-line on Bledsoe and gave him another receiver or two, aside from the tight end Ben Coates, Patriots could be really fucking good.
Well, yeah, because everybody back then, it was just like, isn't Moss's rookie deal? Fucking get Moss.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I turned the cap off, but yeah,
Of course. We all had to.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember those games, and it's really the same. It's like you plug in another piece or two, you might get a better O-line because, what happened.
Interception, Deion Sanders. Yeah.
Yeah. But they had a good defense too. Even then, they had Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy at that time too.
Oh, the firm. Yeah.
Yep, the firm.
The good old days.
Yeah, and depending on the year, you had Brewski as well at linebacker. So
Yeah, Brewski was another one. Then he had McGinnis.
yeah, that's true too.
His defense, oh man, that was good fucking God.
Chris Slade, yep.
Ted Johnson.
Ted Johnson, yep. Pre-heart attack.
God.
Yeah, I remember it, and it's so funny playing those games now because it's like, oh man, if I had like the '99 Patriots or even the 2000 Patriots, going into that first Super Bowl in 2001, it's just or 2001, 2002, I forget now. I think it was 2002.
2001.
Was it?
Yeah.
Shit, yeah, okay. Yeah, just looking at some of those Super Bowls and looking at the players we had and playing those games from back then, it's like, man, if I had that team now, I would just run a rough shot in the entire Madden franchise.
How I feel about it's funny now because I just got the show, the new one this week, because it was on Game Pass. Then you get a discount if you're a member, and then if you get some packs and all this type of stuff. Because when you're in the game,
if you get that, I'll just tell you and I'll tell everybody now. It's EA, right?
no, it's San Diego, Sony.
Oh, it is Sony. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if it's on Game Pass and it's EA, if you pay a little bit extra, you can play their catalog.
Right?
They do
No,
that with a few companies, but
no, but they but it's not EA. It's on.
right. I know.
But
obviously.
I bought the game anyways because usually it comes with. It's the only kind of play. It's the only currency or VLC for that matter that I really kind of. I really don't put money into it, but I grind out to get stuff for it because you unlock stuff for your player for. Road to the show, or also sponsorships, which you unlock to get money for franchise mode to be able to afford higher priced talent. But it's funny because we were talking about like the late 90s. And so I was able to put together on my roster because Mark McGuire now is a legend of the game, along with Ken Griffey Jr., along with Pedro Martinez. So I was thinking about it this week. I'm like, it has come full circle. I am now putting together the lineup that I did in Ken Griffey Jr. baseball in 1998 and 2024 on the Xbox. Like, I'm just like, it has now come to this. But now I have the ultimate control because because now I run a franchise instead of just like a regular season. But God, I just remember being able to all of a sudden you're playing franchise like regular season mode. And then all of a sudden free agency and trading comes up and you're just like, wait a minute, I don't have to stick with the same bullshit that I've had for years. And like,
well, you can reduce the age, right? Or is that just Madden?
That's Madden and NBA.
So
NBA.
That's stupid.
So no, you can't do that in the show. However, I do have a version of Pedro Martinez, who's 21. I have a version of Babe Ruth, who's like 20. I have a version of Ken Griffey Jr., who's 20. I have a version of Mark McGuire, who's 23. So I have a lot of these guys who are young, maybe have their stats from they were older, but it's my sandbox, right? Mm-hmm. So now I have these guys at least under control. And of course also, so that way people don't think that I'm being some prick here and keeping all these guys locked up for cheap money. I have signed all these guys to $300 million deals. I'm being fair. So, for
Bro,
once.
It's a fucking video game. Who cares?
Exactly.
Who gives a fuck?
just, But yeah, if they're setting the salary options now, it's like, what do you expect us to do? If you want us to be under the salary cap, got to make some changes.
Yeah, man. I know there are people out there, like you said, that are like, oh, why are you doing that? That defeats the purpose. It's like, let him play how he wants to play. Exactly. You're number one. Yep. I just play how you want to play. If you go into online mode and you wipe all that shit out, that's on you. Like, whatever. If you're competitive mode and you want to not do stuff like that, don't do it. But if we're playing solo, I don't see any fucking wrong with that. It's a video
It's
game.
from growing up in the 90s when we wouldn't win any fucking championships whatsoever for an entire decade.
There's that too.
So we're just like, all right, well, you know what? If we can't win it, we're going to do it ourselves. Fuck you guys.
Yep.
So you're just putting together like these super teams and video games. And, even when we were still on top, I was still finding ways to do that. I did that in Madden for years. I'm just like, just continue the train. Let's keep this going.
Randy Moss, Tom Brady. Yeah, you guys are 23. You guys are 23. We're good to go.
Ty Law, yeah, you're still good. Yeah.
I still remember this kid that we used to be friends with, who I will not name, but you'll probably figure it out. And I remember he would create a character in all those games, whether it be Madden, whether it be NBA, whatever. And it was always this obnoxiously weird-looking character that he named Haywood Jablomi. And every time we talk about stuff like this, and you create your own characters in some of these games, that is literally all I think of. And I just remember watching him create a character one time on one of the newer NBA games at the time. And it was like this big black dude with like purple cornrows. It looked so fucking weird. And the cornrows were massive, like dreadlock looking cornrows. It was just so obnoxious the way this character looked. I'm sure there's some black dude out there with like purple cornrows that look massive that are just like, what the fuck?
What the fuck you doing?
And I'm sorry, sir, if that's you. But I digress. And then he named it Haywood Jablomi. And I remember just looking at him just like, Jesus Christ. Like, what is going on right now? Every time we have conversations about those kind of games, because Madden, he would do it in Madden. He would do it in whatever NBA game was out. I think at one point, what was it? I think it was Mortal Kombat, one of the PS2 ones, like Deadly Alliance or something. I think had created a character, and he named it Haywood Jablomi there too. It's just so gratuitous, but also, being 20 something back then at the point, it's just like, it's a little funny too, I guess.
Even at 40 something, that's funny. Let's be honest, it's still like, all right, I gotta look at it and say that's funny.
You know what's funny? I think Street Fighter, which was one of his favorite fighting games at the time, which is also not the person I'm talking about, but also this person's favorite fighting game.
Boo ran.
And I think, anyways, I'm sure there's some game nerd more so than you and I out there. Like, they never had to create a character in Street Fighter. What are you talking about? But listen, I'm just going off of what I think right now. And yeah, same thing. Hey, would you blow me in that game too? Got to a point where everything was, hey, would you blow me? And I would just like, hey, would you blow me? Hey, would you blow me?
Like, it's funny, yes, but at the same time, I can understand how they'll get old very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when it's just every...
It was not a hit with the ladies, go figure. That's why I didn't do stuff like that, but,
Sounds like his whole career. Not a hit with the ladies.
Boo ran.
Oh, that's Daniel McDanielson.
Not a hit with the ladies. Really? Shocking. Wouldn't expect that.
I don't know. It might be zero.
Zero ladies.
Exactly.
Zero
ladies just show up. It's just like, why? Yeah.
Listen, as much as I can't stand the kid now, I did have some pretty funny moments with him, and that was one of them. But yeah, I agree. It's what was the number of ladies again, Dave?
It might, I don't know. It might be 0.
That's right.
Did you?
Oh, he knew.
Did you?
Cornbread, damn it, cornbread.
Cornbread.
Did you have good times?
Cornbread.
Did you have good times? Come on.
I mean,
Y'all have
funny moments is what I'll say.
Yeah, I get it. There's always that now of just you look back on with some bit of like, you remember when? According to some people, though, remember when's the lowest form of conversation?
Oh my god, yeah, seriously. But you know what it is for me?
Eat fucking Tony, asshole.
Yeah, I think he was in the car for the "I don't want to hit him" thing. I can't remember if he was or not, but I feel like he was. I know Moretti was. I know Johnny was. I know you were. But I don't know if he was or not. And regardless, right? I'll tell one story here, even though I feel like it's another episode of another show that I still need to start creating.
Yeah, we're giving him a preview. It's fine.
Yeah. So anyways, this dude was dating somebody from Salem, Massachusetts. He lived in, we'll just say Boston, Massachusetts, because it was within the, the overall city limits. Really, it was like Roslindale, West Roxbury area. But again, still Boston, depending on how you're looking at it. And what ended up happening was this girl was Spanish. And I guess, I don't remember the whole story here, obviously. But I think he met the father. And I guess the father said something in Spanish. Whether it be to him, whether it be to his daughter who he is dating, I can't recall. And again, that's hearsay because I was not there. So I'm just going based off of the story. And based on what I can remember of the story, considering this was, I feel like, close to 20 years ago at this point. And that pains me to say so. Anyways, so he said something in Spanish to my friend or to his daughter, like I said. And I asked, what did you say? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, did you respond to be like, I don't speak Spanish? And he was like, no. And he's sitting in my car because I just picked him up when this happened. And thankfully, we were stopped in the parking lot still, because if I said this while driving, I probably would have hit something. And I literally just yelled for some reason, "Yo no comprendo!" Which, for those who don't speak Spanish, means I don't understand. And literally, we both just burst out laughing. I don't often laugh at my own jokes. At least, most of the time anyways. I try not to. But even I had a laugh at what I had just said. And he was just like, I wish I thought of that. Like, as he's laughing, he's like, I wish I thought of to say that to him. And I was like, how many years did you speak Spanish? And he's like, speak it? I was like, learn in school. You know what I meant. And he was like, I don't know, like 3 or 4. And I'm like, then you should have said, yo, no comprendo. And it was just something that in the moment was just very, very funny, because he's talking about a guy that speaks Spanish. He had no idea what he said. So why not say, yo, no comprendo? And it just became a thing for like a month. And I think when we finally went back to college after that summer, he ended up saying something stupid to one of our friends and saying other stupid things to other people, to the point that I don't know why I became with him, friends with him again later. I don't know why, but I did. And there were other funny things that ended up happening that I will just not discuss at this moment, because I'm not going to go there right now.
Duran.
And it's not Duran, by the way, that we're talking about. So
it is not.
So if you are listening, Duran, I am not talking about you.
We're not talking about you. So don't think that we are. And I know he listens. And
he does, and that's why I want to make sure.
Well,
I'm playing the clip to be funny, not to insinuate that we're talking about him in this story, because we're not.
when he gets closer to his new project being released, we will give him some plugs on here because he has definitely shown us some love.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to think that we will not be reciprocating, because my friend, we will. Because I know you'll be putting us over as well on your new project. So I want to be able to share the love, brother, on the Brother Love Show. I love you. Fucking goddamn, one of the best.
Sounded like your Dusty impression, though. That's why I thought it was funny.
Well, because pretty much it's just a Dusty impression.
Yeah.
Turned up to 11. It's
I mean,
like
I guess
it's just a mixture. It's a mixture of Dusty Rhodes and Jim Baker. So that's pretty much where
shit.
you're looking at it. The Reverend Jim Baker here on the PTL Club, because I'm stealing all of your fucking money. I believe in Jesus Christ.
Cornbread, damn it.
And I need
cornbread.
you to send me $25 this month so I can be able to help spread the word of God to you. Please send all checks and money orders to the P.O. box on your screen currently right now, so that way I can spread the Lord of Jesus Christ and my G7 fucking jet stream just right over there that you guys pay for because you're complete fucking idiots.
Because I'm not booked.
God almighty. It's just, and, but when they did have a figure come out at Target of Brother Love, you boy, I definitely was like, I need a Brother Love figure.
Yeah.
I needed Brother Love. Especially too, considering he was the original manager of The Undertaker. And then of course got taken over by Paul Bearer. Speaking of The Undertaker, did you hear the news?
What news is that?
So Taker on his podcast this coming week will be interviewing the former president of current Republican nominee for president of the United States, Donald Trump. Boo! Hey, come on. Look, we're not playing sides here. We are not playing sides here. We are just saying this as news people and giving you the facts here to make your own judgments. We are not condoning any of you to.
I'm not. No. Don't misunderstand me for hitting that button.
Yes,
I don't care what political affiliation.
I don't either.
But I just don't want him on the Undertaker show.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, okay, go on Rogan. Fine.
Yeah.
It's just fine. I just, because then now what is it going to turn into? Are you going to talk wrestling, or is it now just going to be about, stuff like that's not wrestling?
I mean,
like,
you can talk about 3 and 4 at that point.
4 and 5.
4 and 5. Sorry.
And then 23, they could be like, oh, you were kicking Vince's ass. I was winning the title, having the best match of the night with Batista. Yeah, they could talk about that. Like, as long as they could just, maybe Donald could talk about the streak and some other stuff. And I don't know. Talk about building a statue in his honor. That's about it. Like, there's really nothing else.
You see what we just did? We came all the way back to wrestling after all that.
See, folks. Like, it's just, I'm just telling you now. Like, I'm being able to kind of cram it all in there, and also just explain things. Look, that this is what's coming down the pike, and also letting you know that that's what's going to happen, and also not, showing you our cards or anything like that, or letting you know where we stand. I'm just staying as someone that tends to give out information and try to be factual, that the Undertaker will be having Donald Trump on his podcast, which I guess will be cool, kind of interesting, kind of.
It depends how they go about it.
Yeah, it's just,
if it's a platform for Trump to campaign, I'll say it that way, then I would just rather he didn't have him on.
That's the problem
right
now with
now. Hold on. I would say right now, right? If this was next year sometime, we'll say, right? And it's not an election year, he's either president or he lost, like whatever, exactly. Then I objectively don't care, right? Like, have him on. I'm fine with it at that point. But as a campaign year where he is actively, as you said, the nominee for the Republican Party, that's kind of why I'm just like, I'd rather he didn't. Because I don't want to give Donald a platform to further campaign. And listen, you can insinuate what you want from that. I would want the same for Kamala too, though. If Undertaker were to have her on, I wouldn't want it in a campaign year. And I feel the exact same way as what I said for Donald Trump, for Kamala Harris, if that was ever an option that Undertaker wanted to explore. Just throwing that out there.
When Barack Obama went on Mark Maron's podcast, I didn't have a problem with it. So I don't think that was an election year, even if it was. I don't think it was. I don't think it was during an election year, but I didn't have a problem with it. I have a problem with this because this is a way for candidates to get around FCC kind of guidelines when they set up of political ads can only between this time and that type of stuff. So now they have a way to skate around it and being able to have a controlled narrative and questions that in long form, they can give out long form answers in a environment that can be somewhat controlled because they're just looking to get clicks and not being able to have anything really too much of substance, and being able to just go out there for hour and a half, 45 minutes, and just give the same kind of rhetoric that they would at a rally or even being on a talk show or anything like that, except not having to do with the normal media kind of grind. You now can go to a platform that really has no rules. And I just feel like that is it's a good way to get the young vote. Give me that. It's a good way to get like that age bracket that you're looking for. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
But my problem with ultimately is the fact that this is a way to get around those guidelines that were already set up many years ago.
Before you go on, so hold on a second. I don't want to sit here and kowtow just that sense of the conversation. And let me tell you why. Because we don't know, right? We're assuming that is going to be politically charged. We have no idea, right? We're walking into this blind. There might be something that is already in place, whether it be with Donald's team, whether it be with Undertaker's team, to maybe not focus on politics. We don't know. We don't know.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can.
Donald,
still.
Can you imagine? Donald goes on there and they just talk about Taker's career, and we're just sitting there, we're just like, this is kind of cool because Donald's fanboying out to the Undertaker, but I'm still like, okay, so is this just? I guess this is a work.
That's why I don't want to just sit there and be like, okay, yeah, this is about this and this is about that, and we're gonna talk, 60% politics, 40% wrestling, or 50-50, or whatever ratio you want to sit here and say. But we don't know. We can sit here and assume, but we just don't know.
It also very well could be Shane Gillis.
Can you fucking imagine?
Because I know he's friends. I know he's friends with the Angry Tony, universe,
D'Angelo,
Tony D'Angelo universe, and everybody around that. And of course, Shane Gillis, and in my opinion, and many others, has probably the best impression of Trump, hands down, ever.
Dude, I go back to that Kill Tony episode where it was Shane Gillis as Trump, and I forget the guy's name who played Biden.
Yes.
I probably watch that episode once a month at this point because I love Shane Gillis's impression of Trump so much, and he nails it on that episode. And especially, like I said, I unfortunately don't remember the guy who played Biden, but having Biden essentially as his foil for that show made it that much fucking funnier to me. It really did.
You know what? One of my favorite Biden clips going around is that one with, of course, that they did with AI, with him, with the guy from Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, "Do you just take my fucking pen? It's an object that I could probably use later. It's a fucking pen."
My God.
But you literally hear it perfectly in just Biden saying that, and it's just that's such the funny thing sometimes. Of just like you're seeing this animation of it, you'll know it never happened in real life, but here's Biden talking to fucking somebody from goddamn Resident Evil about trying to save his daughter from zombies. Like, I need you to. Why did you just take my pen? Why?
You know what? I've seen so many of these lately where they're like mashing shit together. You actually sent one to a couple of the group chats that you and I are in together this week. If not today, it was yesterday. I don't remember exactly. With the Major League shit.
Oh, God.
But there was another one too that I forget I had sent, like, I think a week ago. I don't remember which one it was, but that was another one where it's like the mashed up of stuff like that. But when you talk about those kind of mashups, excuse me, I kind of want to see more of Biden mashups because I can imagine him and Liam Neeson when he was in Taken. I have a particular set of skills. I'll find you. I'll kill you. And just whatever mashup they end up doing of Biden to that, I think would be hilarious. I think it would just fit so well.
Oh, God. So we're talking about Major League and a final in Cleveland. The God, I keep saying Indians. The Guardians defeat the Yankees in 10 innings, 7-5. And now it's a 2-1 lead for the Yankees in the ALCS. The NLCS currently 2-1 lead for the Dodgers.
Yep.
However, right now in Game 4, they have a 7-2 lead over the Mets in the top of the 8th inning.
Well, so much for your Cinderella story of a Subway series.
Well, goddamn Grimace, man. Still early. The Mets still have outs that they can still come back on.
Oh, that's Daniel McDanielson.
Daniel McDanielson. Yes, they could pray to the gods of Daniel McDanielson. Again, I'm thinking to myself, I'm just like, oh God, we might be done before 11 o'clock. And we've gone past 11 o'clock because we were just talking again about random bullshit.
Still comes back to wrestling, though.
Still always goes back to wrestling.
Ooh,
Who know we were just able to have this whole conversation and have it turn it around to, and well, Shane Gillis could be Donald Trump going on to the Undertaker's podcast.
If he does, it'll be the greatest moment.
Bravo.
It'll be the greatest moment.
Bravo.
We have greatest moments, and that'll be one of them. Said Donald Trump. But Shane Gillis is Donald Trump.
Even you know what though? Taker with Donald Trump like on a podcast, it's still like, all right. I'll give it it's kind of cool. Even though if Austin was still doing a podcast, like if he did like Broken Skull Sessions, I got the guy I stunned. I stunned the President of the United States. I was able to get, so it just dropped his ass. right in the middle of Ford's Field. And he's now on a podcast. Donald Trump. How are you, dumb son of a bitch? How are you?
You know, it's funny because all I could sit here and think of still is Shane Gillis. So now I'm thinking Shane Gillis on the Broken Skull session, if it was still going on, would be fucking hilarious too. It's just there's so many practical application of Shane Gillis's imitation of Donald Trump that it's like I could see him go anywhere and I'd be happy. He's done Joe Rogan already, so it's like that's a box checked off. It's like dude can go anywhere with that Donald Trump impression, and I feel it would just fucking print money.
I do think Donald Trump though will probably do Chris Jericho's podcast though, because Jericho has shown us
They both have some NDAs.
Allegedly. Allegedly. Allegedly.
Whatever.
Allegedly. It's allegedly. Fucking say it.
There might be zero.
Dave agrees with you.
Allegedly.
Dave agrees with you. It's fine.
Allegedly.
Dave agrees with you. It's fine.
Allegedly.
It might. I don't know. There might be zero.
Zero NDAs.
Allegedly.
You're saying allegedly to zero NDAs.
Allegedly.
God.
Cornbread, damn it, cornbread.
Covering our ass here. Someone's got to sometimes. Someone's got to be able to be mature here on this program and step up and be like, we got to stop being this dumb.
I don't. First of all, don't call me dumb. Second of all, I don't know.
I'm not calling you dumb, but you understand what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm tired at this point. I have no idea what we're talking about.
I'm the same boat.
Okay.
So I think it's a good time for
I
us
agree.
to.
That was the segue. Right
fit,
there.
yeah, that's the segue. Hey, I took the hint. I took the bait. Yeah. I took the hint. Line and sinker. Thank you for joining us, folks, here on PWW Talks. You can find us here on Diamond Podcasting Productions. And, of course, you can find us on Spotify and on Apple and wherever you can find your favorite podcast. Mac, you got anything else to say to close us out?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, favorite, subscribe, share, do all the necessary things, whether it be for the shoot, for Pro Wrestling World Talks, for every other podcast that we do, because holy crap, we're going to be jumping into a few. Not to give any spoilers.
Sharks.
Spoilers.
There are going to be sharks involved.
Spoilers, yep. Stay tuned. We are hoping to really have a big episode next week. That'll be recording a little bit earlier in the week than normal, so we might get that episode out pretty quick. We'll see about maybe a 2-episode week. We have no idea yet, but hopefully the big news will be big news and not something that I'm bluffing on. And I think, depending on the timing, we might have to bring the scroll back. And I think that'll be a good idea, because we've missed a lot of posts from the boys. So, kind of diving back into that a little bit might help us out, might level set where we're at, because there's a lot going on and a lot of opinions out there that we haven't really talked about with some of the stuff that we normally do talk about. So getting the extra opinions from the team will be a good thing, I feel like, too. But more to come on that as the weeks go on. We'll try to do it.
And also, there's been some rumors, too. We might be going live.
There's that, too. We're still talking about that, but we might do some live shows. Probably on our Facebook page on the Pro Wrestling World. What are you trying to whisper now?
A massive audience where we might draw more than AEW Collision. You understand that, right?
Shit.
We might draw more than AEW Rampage.
Well, print me money, damn it!
Print me money.
Yep. So we're thinking through a live show in the next couple.
So
we
might actually have to. I might actually have to do the show sober. You know how hard that's going to be, folks.
Yeah. Shit, that's a good point.
It's like shit. I got to be sober, and I got to watch an afternoon show. What? Why?
All right, that's too many spoilers now. We're just getting off topic. Yeah, so there's a lot of good news coming out from the podcast, so stay tuned for some of that in the next couple of weeks. Other than that, though, I'm good to go. You can take us home.
Well, folks, enjoy. There's no real big shows this weekend, but I think we are getting close to Halloween, so I'm sure Halloween party season is going to be ramping up. I'm hoping at least to maybe taking a hayride or something this weekend. Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult with current circumstances, but who knows? But I hope you at least take some time to maybe watch some good wrestling, or maybe some good Halloween films as well.
Boo ran.
Except Halloween Ends.
Boo ran.
Do not watch Halloween Ends.
Boo ran.
I know he likes it.
Really? Was it the third time that I played it that you thought?
It bothers me that he defends it. It just bothers me. It offends me that he defends it. It offends me. Like it does. It's like it's one of the most offensive hills that I have seen someone die on ever, and it just bothers me. I don't understand why it does. It just bothers me because
I know exactly why. It's a horrible movie.
It's so bad. And it's just like he's just sitting there and he's just trying to defend it. It's just like even the night of, I remember Stephanie just looked at him and just said, "Billy, go fuck yourself. I'm going to bed." Like she just was so mad. She's just like, "I'm going to bed. I don't want to hear it." Like I don't want to hear it. Like, and I remember just watching that and I'm just like, what just happened? Why is this it? Oh my God. And that's just, so if you want to watch any Halloween movie, you can even watch Resurrection, for Christ's sake, with Busta Rhymes, and I think you'd be more entertained. You can watch don't watch. All right. So if we want to watch Halloween films, it'll be 1 through 5. Skip 6. H2O, okay. Resurrection. It's your decision. The first Rob Zombie.
Honestly, if you're going to watch any of them as your ride or dies, it's the first one, it's the first Rob Zombie, and it's Kills. Those three are probably the best three of the entire series. You know I'm fucking right.
2018 one is very good.
I'm not saying it's not, but I think Kills is better.
That first one is very... That first Rob Zombie one is kind of...
First one is good.
Yeah.
Okay, I know people shit on his 2 movies, but let's be real. They're really shitting on the second one.
The second one is really bad.
Yeah.
It's as bad as Kills. It's as bad as Kills.
I think Kills is worse, but I would agree. We're talking like tiers. Both are F tier. I agree.
Yeah. And I'll put it up there also with I'll say Resurrection is better, but I will say that I will put that, and I'll put the Curse of Michael Myers 6, and I'll put that in the category of F tier as well. F5 5 survives it only because of some certain aspects, but it is a tier above the F tier. But it's not like an all-time tier, in my opinion.
I really think the F tier stands alone. Like, honestly. I think between Ends and the second Rob Zombie film, those two stand alone. It's like utter dog shit. Let's be
Oh, they're
real.
so bad. They're so bad. They're so bad. And of
And
course,
if people ask where Season of the Witch is, that's unranked because that does not count. I'm just gonna lay that out now.
it's its own film.
Exactly.
I don't even count it in that universe. Like in my opinion, as its own film out of the Halloween universe, it's an A plus. In the Halloween universe, it's unranked. It's like it's got
100% agree.
the not applicable the NA. It's just not in the Michael Myers universe, in my opinion. And you can tell because of
Mike Myers.
That behind me.
That as well.
I take it seriously. So
no, it's definitely some of my favorite, horror slasher films for sure. I love that series.
It'll be interesting to see where they go, because it's going to get brought back at some point. Someone's going to be bringing it back to and try to bring it back to another glory and try to give back some origin story that we're just like, okay, we're going with this now.
See, that's why I think the original Rob Zombie is good. They try to give it a backstory.
Yes.
And what of that I felt was smart, truthfully, because a lot of the series is not delved into that.
No.
Almost at all, really. And being able to see that visually, I think, gave credence to it. And overall, the movie wasn't awful, right? Like, I know there are people, like I said, that shit on his movies, but I think the first one was good.
It was good.
The second one, huge step back. Huge step back. Yeah. So,
but it was another, what 2 is? 2 was to me what Joker 2 is to me. It was an unnecessary sequel.
Yes and no. I think it was him trying to build on the success of the first movie, because let's be real, it was successful.
It was.
But they did it in a way that divided the fan base, number one. And number two, it just wasn't that fucking good.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was not good at all. It wasn't memorable. It wasn't anything. Like,
yeah.
And that's the thing. Even Resurrection's memorable because of Busta Rhymes. Trick or treat.
You keep fucking saying that, but that was so stupid.
It's dumb, but it's still memorable.
It is, I guess.
That's the thing. It's like it's like WrestleMania 9. It's dumb, but it's still memorable.
On that note, you were supposed to take us home, and you still haven't done it.
I am. You're right. So on that note, I have just been reminded. Good night, everybody. Go home. Watch some horror movies. Watch some good wrestling. And we'll see you back here real soon. Probably again next week. Maybe with maybe with a bonus episode. Who knows?
We'll see.
Who knows? Good night, everybody.
Oh, that's Daniel McDanielson.